Chapter 18. With the ninefold space, Lin Yi cultivated outside during the day. At night, he entered the ninefold space. The 4:1 ratio gave him a lot of time to practice cultivation techniques, martial skills, and the 3000 heavenly Tao. The day finally passed. In the dead of the night, Lin Yi opened the ninefold space. His figure strangely disappeared and entered the ninefold space. Sacred weapon, Skyflame's sacred saber. Sure enough, it's not something a spiritual weapon can compare with. Lin Yi looked at the saber, which was emitting a terrifying saber intent. This saber intent alone was enough to tear apart the defense of any Xiantian martial artist, leaving them with no chance to fight back. If he could control the Skyflame's sacred saber, he could do whatever he wanted. Although he had never seen a sacred weapon, he knew some information about it from Theta Scarabii. According to the ancient records, there were sacred runes inside the sacred weapon, which could erupt with shocking power. The stronger the sacred runes, the stronger the sacred weapon. The more sacred runes, the higher the level of the sacred weapon. The name of the Skyflame's sacred saber not only indicated its level, but also the domineering sacred runes inside the saber. These sacred runes were enough to prove that it was a powerful sacred weapon. Lin Yi looked at the Skyflame's sacred saber with a blazing light in his eyes. If he could control this Skyflame's sacred saber, his strength would increase a lot. Even if he encountered a Xiantian 9th stage martial artist, he could kill him with one strike. Of course, this was mainly due to the sacred runes and saber intent inside the Skyflame's sacred saber. Besides, it was best not to use a sacred weapon that surpassed a spiritual weapon under normal circumstances. One must know that the most powerful weapon in Yunshui Kingdom was only 9th stage, and 9th stage spiritual weapons were very rare. If a sacred weapon appeared, he would be hunted down by countless experts. After a while, Lin Yi dripped a drop of essence blood on the Skyflame's sacred saber. Suddenly, a terrifying saber intent erupted from the Skyflame's sacred saber, making a sizzling sound. The saber intent rushed out and raged towards Lin Ye's body. Lin Ye's face was filled with shock and pain. That saber intent was incomparably domineering, almost tearing him to pieces. The pain made him want to faint. However, he could not faint. The saber will continue to wreak havoc. After an unknown period of time, Lin Yi sensed that he now possessed a trace of saber intent, just like the Skyflame's sacred saber. However, the saber intent he possessed was far too little. Compared to the Skyflame's sacred saber, it was only 1%. At this moment, the Skyflame's sacred blade had already recognized its master. Lin Yi held the Skyflame's sacred saber with one hand, and he immediately felt unparalleled confidence. It was like he could chop the river in half with one saber strike. His hot-bloodedness surged, and he itched to fight a great battle. However, Lin Yi could not easily use the heavenly flame's sacred blade in the ninefold space. This was to avoid affecting the ninefold space. After all, the ninefold space had only just unlocked the second seal and was not very stable. Once the third seal was unlocked, the ninefold space would become an independent small world. Even a battle would not affect the ninefold space. Suppressing his boiling blood, he put away the Skyflame's sacred blade. Then, an ancient book of martial techniques appeared in his hand. Looking at the ancient book in his hand, Shao Chun revealed a trace of anticipation. Although the Skyflame's sacred blade was powerful, without a powerful martial technique, the Skyflame's sacred blade would not be able to unleash its full power. The tenfold destruction saber in his hand was just right for the Skyflame's sacred blade. After cultivating the tenfold destruction saber, its power had reached a terrifying level when combined with the Skyflame's sacred blade. However, cultivating the tenfold destruction saber was not so easy. It was not like a profound rank or earth rank martial technique. Instead, it was a heaven rank martial technique. Furthermore, it was a very powerful and domineering heaven rank martial technique. The tenfold destruction saber only has 9 layers. This is because no one has cultivated the 10th layer. In other words, there is no 10th layer. The first layer creates a saber light. The second layer creates 2 saber lights. The third layer creates 4 saber lights. The fourth layer creates 8 saber lights. When one reaches the 9th layer, one will be able to create endless saber lights in the world with one saber strike, thousands upon thousands of destructive saber light. The difference in power between each layer is like heaven and earth. Lin Yi was extremely shocked when he comprehended the tenfold destruction saber. He did not expect the tenfold destruction saber to be so terrifying. If it was combined with the Skyflame Sacred Blade, he would be invincible within the same rank. He would be able to kill opponents several levels higher. However, he did not know how long it would take to cultivate the tenfold destruction saber to the 10th layer. Next, Lin Yi made a cultivation arrangement. During the day, he would cultivate the Luo water scripture to improve his cultivation. At night, he would cultivate the thunderclap sword technique, the tenfold destruction saber, the absolute defense, and the invincible attack. Of course, he would cultivate in the 9-fold space at night. Unknowingly, 8 days had passed. In 8 days, Lin Ye's cultivation had reached the Xiantian Realm Level 3 from the peak of Xiantian Realm Level 2. Lin Yi was not happy about reaching the Xiantian Realm Level 3 because it was only at the Xiantian Realm. Besides, it was only a matter of time before he reached the Xiantian Realm Level 3. However, what made him happy was that the Thunderclap sword technique had reached the 6th sword. He had successfully cultivated the first layer of the tenfold destruction saber. With the help of the soul pill, his spiritual sense had entered the 21st layer. Although the gap between the 20th layer and the 21st layer was only a small step, the gap between the two was huge. It was like going from the Hotian realm to the Xiantian realm, or going from the Xiantian realm to the spiritual movement realm. On this day, Lin Yi stopped cultivating and walked out of the pavilion. He just happened to see Luo Xing'er, Luo Ling'er, and Luo Bingyue. Seeing Luo Bingyue, Lin Yi could not help but be surprised. This was because the impression that Luo Bingyue gave him was that she had always been in closed-door cultivation and rarely came out. However, he soon understood. He saw that there was a young man with the 3 women. The young man was confident and at ease. His body exuded an elegant temperament. The nobility of an aristocratic family's heaven's pride was fully revealed. He was dressed in purple, holding a folding fan in his hand, and had a confident smile on his face. Although he was talking and laughing, his eyes were intentionally or unintentionally sweeping over Luo Bingyue and the other 2 women. It turned out that the appearance of Luo Bingyue was because of this young man. Brother-in-law. The appearance of Lin Yi was seen by Luo Xing'er. She, who had been pouting, happily greeted Lin Yi. She looked very unhappy and quickly ran in the direction of Lin Yi. She pulled Lin Ye's hand and walked towards the young man. There are guests. Lin Yi had a smile on his face as he looked at Luo Xing'er. After cultivating the heavenly wood amplification technique, Luo Xing'er had become even stronger. Her temperament had become even more refreshing and lively, as if she was the spirit of all things. The heavenly wood amplification technique was a heaven-rank wood-type cultivation technique. Luo Xing'er happened to be of the wood attribute, which was just right for her. A heaven's pride from the Moon Kingdom. His name is Jun Hanli, a low-grade emperor body. Now, he's at the Xiantian 9th layer, only 1 step away from the spirit mirror. Luo Xing'er said in a low voice. From her expression, it was obvious that she was unhappy to see this heaven's pride from the Moon Kingdom, because this heaven's pride came for her sister and wanted to hit on Luo Bingyue. Jun Hanli, a low-grade emperor body, a super genius. Moreover, he had another identity, and that was the son of the emperor beside the emperor of the Moon Kingdom. His status was extraordinary, and he was a top existence among countless heaven's prides. a heaven's pride from the Moon Kingdom. He's like a dragon or a phoenix among men. Lin Yi smiled. He didn't put a low-grade emperor body in his eyes. Although he didn't have a martial soul, he didn't put these talented heaven's prides in his eyes. Not to mention a low-grade emperor body, even if it was a peerless emperor body or a saint body, he wouldn't care. The two of them talked as they walked forward. His appearance and Luo Xing'er's movements attracted the attention of Luo Ling'er, Luo Bingyue, and the young man. The three of them looked at Luo Xing'er and Lin Yi. Luo Bingyue and Luo Ling'er didn't care, because they were used to Luo Xing'er being close to Lin Yi. As for Jun Hanli, when he saw Lin Yi, a trace of ice-cold killing intent flashed through his eyes. Even Luo Bingyue and Luo Ling'er didn't notice it, because Jun Hanli's cultivation was high, and he always had a smile on his face. However, that trace of killing intent was unable to escape Lin Ye's perception. If he, who had a level 21 divine sense, couldn't detect this killing intent, then it wouldn't be divine sense. Sensing the young man's killing intent, Lin Ye's lips curled into a smile. In Xing'er's eyes, brother-in-law is the most powerful. Luo Xing'er had a cute smile on her beautiful face. The two of them talked and laughed, and soon, they arrived in front of Luo Bingyue and the others. "You're done with your cultivation." To Lin Ye's surprise, Luo Bingyue actually took the initiative to greet him. In Lin Ye's memory, this was the first time this had happened, and her tone wasn't so cold. Furthermore, when she greeted Lin Yi, she stood up. Luo Ling'er, who was beside her, bowed towards Lin Yi. "Yes, I'm done with my cultivation. We have guessed." Lin Yi nodded, looking calm. He looked at Jun Hanli. "Introduce them. Crown Prince Jun, this is my brother-in-law. Brother-in-law, this is Jun Hanli, the son of the prince beside the Emperor of the Moon Kingdom. He is a super genius of the Moon Kingdom. He has the flame gold body and is at the peak of Xiantian Stage 9. He is considered very powerful among his peers." Luo Xing'er had a mischievous smile on her face as she held Lin Ye's hand. She began to introduce Jun Hanli and Lin Yi. When she introduced Lin Yi to Jun Hanli, she deliberately emphasized the word brother-in-law to indicate the relationship between Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue, and to persuade Jun Hanli not to have any ideas about her sister. Hearing Luo Xing'er's introduction, Jun Hanli looked coldly at Lin Yi. He had heard about Lin Yi long ago. It was said that Lin Yi did not have a martial soul, but he had become Luo Bingyue's fiancé. This time, he came to the Dark Ice Palace because of Luo Bingyue. When he saw Luo Bingyue's beauty, he was stunned. He also liked Luo Ling'er and Luo Xing'er very much. Especially Luo Bingyue and Luo Xing'er. The two of them were twin sisters, and they looked exactly the same. They were incomparably beautiful. If one person could take down the two sisters, that would be the greatest blessing in life. Now, Lin Ye's existence made him view Lin Yi as someone who should be killed. He did not see Lin Yi as an opponent or enemy, because Lin Yi was not qualified to be his opponent or enemy. Jun Hanli. Lin Yi nodded at Jun Hanli as a form of greeting. If they were not in the Dark Ice Palace, he would not have bothered with this Lin Yi. He was too rude, because everyone present was standing and greeting him. He was the only one who sat without moving, completely ignoring Lin Yi. "You're the Lin Yi who doesn't have a martial soul? To be honest, I admire you." Jun Hanli sat down, reached out and picked up the fragrant tea, and tasted it gently. Chapter 19. Luo Bingyue couldn't help but frown at Jun Hanli's disrespect and contempt. Luo Ling'er and Luo Xing also felt a trace of anger. Apart from the relationship between Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue, their relationship with Lin Yi was better than that of a stranger. Now, an outsider genius was being rude to Lin Yi. It was the same as being rude to them. They couldn't stand it anymore. Luo Bingyue glanced at Jun Hanli indifferently, and the coldness in her body intensified. Ever since Lin Yi broke the agreement, she felt a trace of guilt. Seeing someone being rude to Lin Yi and looking down on him was like touching the pain in her heart. It's my honor to be admired by Crown Prince Jun. Tell me, what is it about Crown Prince Jun that you admire me so that I can go out and show off? Lin Yi didn't take Jun Hanli's disrespect to heart at all. This was because he didn't take Jun Hanli seriously at all. There was no need to be calculative with someone who didn't take a liking to him. A true genius had pride and confidence, but his pride and confidence were positive. But Jun Hanli wasn't a true genius. He wasn't even a true genius, so how could Lin Yi take him seriously? As he spoke, he sat opposite Jun Hanli. Luo Ling obediently poured Lin Yi a cup of tea and stood beside Lin Yi. Fairy Bingyue, you're extremely talented. Your looks are stunning, and Sir Lin, your talent, haha. I wonder if Sir Lin feels any pressure. Jun Hanli smiled and said, Is Bingyue beautiful? I don't feel it. Talent, extremely talented? I don't feel it either. Pressure, to be honest, I really don't feel any pressure. Lin Yi picked up the fragrant tea that Luo Ling handed him and gently tasted it. He had a faint smile on his face as he looked at Luo Bingyue. After he finished speaking, his gaze landed on Jun Hanli. To be honest, Luo Bingyue was indeed beautiful. Moreover, she was cold and arrogant, keeping people at a distance of 1,000 miles, just like an ice goddess. However, he didn't feel any pressure at all. When Luo Bingyue saw Lin Yi's gaze, her heart couldn't help but tighten. She didn't expect Lin Yi to look at her, but Lin Yi looked at her with admiration. When she heard Lin Yi say that he didn't think she was beautiful, she felt a sense of loss, an inexplicable sense of loss. Sir Lin, you're immortal. You must have relied on Fairy Bingyue to get into Xingwu College. Jun Hanli looked at Lin Yi. When he heard Lin Yi's reply, he almost broke down. How could there be such a thick-skinned person in this world? Crown Prince Jun, you said that my talent shouldn't be in your eyes. Now that you say that I'm immortal, may I ask Crown Prince Jun, what else do you have to be proud of other than your identity as a crown prince? Why don't you tell me? I'm really curious. Lin Yi's tone was calm, neither fast nor slow. However, the look in his eyes became sharp. If others don't offend me, I won't offend them. If others offend me, I'll definitely repay them double. Sir Lin, you're quite eloquent. However, being eloquent doesn't mean that you can survive in this world. Only with great talent and strength can one become a superior person. You don't understand this point. If it weren't for Fairy Bingyue, I would really teach you well so that you won't die after leaving Xingwu College. Jun Hanli's expression became extremely ugly. He was a super genius with the emperor physique. He hated it when people talked about his identity. Now, a young man without a martial soul said that he had nothing but his identity as a crown prince. He couldn't take it anymore. However, he didn't want to lose his composure in front of Luo Bingyue. If he met Lin Yi alone, he would definitely make Lin Yi suffer a fate worse than death. Crown Prince Jun has said so much. I've finally heard something that's reasonable. Lin Yi said calmly with a smile on his face. The meaning of his words was clear. He meant that Jun Hanli had said so much, but none of it was reasonable. Brother-in-law, I agree with what you said. Luo Xing couldn't help but laugh. She didn't expect her brother-in-law, who had always been low-key and calm, to be so sarcastic. Moreover, he was the son of the Emperor Physique Genius of the Moon Kingdom. Xing Luo Bingyue was happy to see Lin Yi mocking Jun Hanli, but she wasn't as straightforward as Luo Xing. Moreover, Luo Xing echoed Lin Yi's words, which inevitably made Jun Hanli embarrassed. Jun Hanli's expression was extremely ugly. With a cold snort, he released the power of a peak Khanate Stage 9. Crown Prince Jun, this is Xingwu College. It's not your Jun family. Don't geniuses like you need to cultivate? Lin Yi looked coldly at Jun Hanli and said. Jun Hanli was bored, but he wouldn't stay here. After saying that, he got up and was about to leave. Ice Moon Fairy. You and I are both geniuses with the emperor physique. You should understand the pride of a genius. Lin Yi provoked me, but I didn't argue with him for the sake of Ice Moon Fairy. Now, can I teach him a thing or two? June Hanli saw that Lin Yi was about to leave, and he immediately became unhappy. Although he had never underestimated a good-for-nothing youth, Lin Ye's words had provoked and humiliated him. If he were to let Lin Yi leave just like that, it would be strange if he, June Hanli, would not be laughed to death in the future. Young Master June, this is Mystic Ice Palace. If young Master June thinks that he is invincible among the Khanate stage, Bingyue can experience young Master June's means. Of course, Mystic Ice Palace doesn't allow fighting. We can go to the arena. I wonder what young Master June thinks? Luo Bingyue looked at June Hanli with her beautiful eyes and said coldly. Although she was asking June Hanli, she had already walked out of Mystic Ice Palace. Needless to say, she wanted to compete with June Hanli in the arena. They were both emperor physiques, and they were both at the peak of Xiantian Stage 9. They were only one step away from spirit formation. I am honored that Ice Moon Fairy is willing to teach me. I will teach you after I spar with Ice Moon Fairy. When June Hanli heard Luo Bingyue's words, he couldn't help but be startled. He could use his strength to conquer this beautiful ice-cold goddess. At that time, the two emperor physiques would become a pair. It would definitely be a good story. He looked at Luo Bingyue's departure with excitement. Then, he stared coldly at Lin Yi and walked out of Mystic Ice Palace. Let's go and see your sister's strength. Lin Yi directly ignored June Hanli. If June Hanli was his enemy, he could kill him without lifting a finger. He looked at Luo Bingyue, who had already walked out of Mystic Ice Palace. That beautiful back view was even more beautiful. Luo Bingyue dared to stand out. It should be because she was confident in her own strength. More importantly, she wanted to test her own strength. Then, he said to Luo Xing'er and walked out. The arena. Shenwu College was a place where one could fight. It could be said that this was the only place in the entire Shenwu College where one could fight without being punished. If one fought in other places, they would be punished by Shenwu College. This was one of the most lively places in Shenwu College. Warriors could be seen coming here to exchange pointers at any time. Luo Bingyue's appearance immediately caused a sensation. One must know that Luo Bingyue was the most beautiful girl in Yunshui Kingdom. She was the goddess in the hearts of countless geniuses. She was an ice goddess. Moreover, she had an emperor physique. This year, Shenwu College recruited 2 people with emperor physique. Luo Bingyue was one of them. Luo Bingyue, that's Luo Bingyue. Goddess Luo, the most beautiful goddess in my heart. As Senior Luo is going to the arena. Is Senior Luo going to fight with someone? She is a super genius with an emperor physique. Who can fight with her? Isn't that the super genius of the Moon Kingdom, June Hanli? He is also a genius with an emperor physique. Is June Hanli going to fight with Luo Bingyue in the arena? I heard that Luo Bingyue has a twin sister who looks exactly the same. She is really beautiful. That Luo Linger, although she is not as beautiful as Luo Bingyue and her sister, she is definitely a beauty. Countless voices of discussion could be heard. Moreover, as the news spread, many students near the arena rushed to the arena. Firstly, they admired the beauty of the sisters Luo Bingyue and Luo Ling. Secondly, they wanted to watch the battle between the super geniuses with emperor physique. In less than a moment, thousands of students had gathered in the arena. There were also countless students rushing over. There were even strong cultivators from the spirit channeling realm. Beautiful women would become the focus of attention wherever they went. Of course, Lin Yi was also the subject of discussion. However, the topic of discussion was not so pleasant. More people said that Lin Yi was living off a woman and was shamelessly sticking to Luo Bingyue. Hiss 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 hiss. The arena was 100 meters long, 100 meters wide, and 2 meters high. The entire arena was made of hard bluestone, and was supported by a powerful array. Not to mention Xiantians, even if it was a battle between spirit formations or even more terrifying cultivators, they would not be able to shake the arena. On the arena, Luo Bingyue was wearing a white dress. Her entire body was cold and arrogant. Her entire body was emitting a cold aura. Her temperament was otherworldly, and no one dared to approach her. Jun Hanli was confident and at ease as he waved a fan in his hand. The two of them were 20 meters apart. Both of them were dragons and phoenixes among men. Countless students were envious of them. In the hearts of countless people, they were a match made in heaven. However, at this moment, the two of them were treating each other as opponents. The battle had not yet begun, but a powerful aura had already spread out. In front of the powerful aura, the air was distorted and torn apart, producing a hissing sound. The spectating students felt a strong pressure. Kacha. With Luo Bingyue as the center, a layer of frost appeared on the ground within a radius of 10 meters. Suddenly, the temperature dropped sharply. Qi La with Jun Hanli as the center, the air within a radius of 10 meters was distorted like a sharp blade. In terms of talent, the two of them were equally matched. Chapter 20. Rumble Rumble. Luo Bingyue turned into a white shadow and rushed towards Jun Hanli with a terrifying icy aura. Jun Hanli waved the folding fan in his hand, and it exploded in the air. For a moment, the two super geniuses were fighting. Both of them were geniuses with emperor physique, and had reached the peak of Xiantian realm. They could break through the Xiantian realm at any time and step into the spirit-driving realm. On the fighting stage, sword light flashed and energy raged. Below the stage, countless students were stunned and sighed in their hearts. This was a real battle. Although they were both Xiantian realm, there was a huge gap between their strength and Luo Bingyue and Jun Hanli's. Heavenly Ice Technique. Ice Sword Technique. Time passed by and a quarter of an hour had passed. Neither of them was able to determine the winner. At this moment, Luo Bingyue's voice sounded. Her voice was as cold as ice, and it made people tremble. When her voice sounded, a terrifying ice power erupted on the fighting stage. Countless ice sword light flashed, and each sword light was terrifying to the extreme. The spirit-driving realm experts could not help but be shocked when they saw this scene. Even if they were in the spirit-driving realm, they might not be able to withstand this terrifying sword light. Golden Flame Technique. Unparalleled Sword Technique. Jun Hanli's face became ugly. Although the others felt the terror of the ice sword technique, they did not experience it personally. He, who was on the fighting stage, felt the arrival of the Grim Reaper. It was as if he would fall in the next moment. Not daring to hold back, he operated the Golden Flame technique to the extreme and slashed out with his sword. Rumble clang hiss, the two figures flashed and intertwined with each other. A terrifying muffled sound exploded in the air. However, both of them stopped and didn't intend to attack again. The fighting ring gradually quieted down. In the end, it was completely silent. The spectators in the fighting ring also held their breaths, afraid to break the silence. The Golden Flame technique lives up to its name. After a long time, Luo Bingyue's voice sounded. Her voice was as cold as the Heavenly Ice technique and Ice Sword technique that she practiced. After that, he turned around and walked down the fighting ring. On her arm, there was a trace of blood on her moon-white long sleeve. The sleeve had been cut by the sword light, and there was a trace of dark red blood on her lotus-like snow-white arm. Just now, when he was fighting with Jun Hanli, he was injured by Jun Hanli's sword light. However, this injury was nothing. It was just some external injuries. Puchi. Frost Sword Technique Level 3. Jun Hanli spat out a mouthful of blood. There were more than 10 wounds on his body. His injuries were much more serious than Luo Bingyue's. Moreover, he had suffered internal injuries. He had reached the peak of Xiantian 9th stage earlier than Luo Bingyue, and his cultivation was a bit deeper. However, Luo Bingyue had already cultivated the heaven-tier martial skill, Frost Sword Arts, to the 3rd level. Your talent is not bad. It's a pity that you shouldn't have come to the Yunshui Kingdom. Luo Bingyue walked down the fighting ring step by step. Her cold voice almost froze the air. Soon, she arrived in front of Lin Yi and the other two. Can you protect him for a lifetime? Is it worth it? You're so beautiful and talented. Are you willing to accept this? Jun Hanli said with an ugly expression. His tone was full of questions. Although he had been injured by Luo Bingyue and looked more serious, he had not lost. However, he was not convinced that Lin Yi, who did not have a martial soul, could make Luo Bingyue stand up for him. His words resonated with countless students and experts of Shengwu College. Luo Bingyue was a super genius and the most beautiful woman in the Yunshui Kingdom. Like an ice goddess, she was an otherworldly fairy. She was not someone an ordinary person like Lin Yi could touch. Not to mention Lin Yi, even some super geniuses were not necessarily worthy of Luo Bingyue. Although you are talented, Jun Hanli said, your eyes are not good. You are not in his eyes at all. In other words, you are like a monkey in front of him. You have been playing monkey tricks, but you don't know. Luo Bingyue said coldly as she turned around and looked at Jun Hanli in the fighting ring. Lin Yi had cancelled the agreement. Yes, it was painful because she had made Lin Yi a joke. Although all this was caused by Lin Ye's low profile, she did not want to see others say that Lin Yi was a good-for-nothing. Luo Bingyue's words shocked countless people. For a moment, everyone's gazes turned towards Lin Yi. This was the first time Luo Bingyue had defended Lin Yi in front of outsiders. Moreover, many people were puzzled by Luo Bingyue's words and thought that Luo Bingyue had misunderstood. Jun Hanli, I have said that you have nothing but the identity of a crown prince. Go back to the Baiwei Kingdom and be a carefree prince of the prince alongside King. Lin Yi looked at Jun Hanli in the fighting ring and said indifferently. It could be said that he had seen the battle the most clearly among the countless spectators. Because of his divine will, he could see everything clearly even without using his eyes. In fact, there were many parts of the battle that could not be seen clearly with the naked eye. Luo Bingyue was a few years younger than Jun Hanli and reached the Xiantian Realm 9th stage relatively late. However, she had surpassed him and cultivated the 3rd level of the ice sword technique. She was slightly stronger than Jun Hanli. Of course, Jun Hanli still had powerful means. If he were to fight with Jun Hanli, he would only need one sword to severely injure Jun Hanli. When he opened his mouth, everyone's eyes were on him. There were doubts, puzzlement, and disdain in their eyes. Lin Yi, come to the fighting ring if you have the ability. You seem to enjoy being protected by a woman. Jun Hanli was very angry. It was a complete provocation to be called a crown prince in front of so many people. Moreover, it was said by Lin Yi, who was regarded as trash by so many people. This was simply a humiliation. To be honest, I can crush someone like you with one finger. To be honest, you are not qualified to be my opponent. However, for the sake of all the seniors and juniors of Shengwu College, I will give you a chance. As long as you can break my defense, it will be your victory. Lin Yi walked towards the fighting ring step by step. His voice was loud and clear, spreading throughout the fighting ring. For a moment, the students present were shocked by Lin Yi's actions and words. Most of them were curious. This Lin Yi, who did not have a martial soul, really dared to go on the fighting ring against a genius with an emperor physique. Everyone could not help but admire Lin Yi's courage and arrogance. He could crush a genius with an emperor physique with one finger. Even a genius with an emperor physique was not qualified to be his opponent. How arrogant and domineering was this? Was he ignorant or domineering? Brother-in-law, please show mercy. He is the crown prince of the Moon Kingdom. Luo Xing looked at Lin Yi walking towards the fighting ring. She could not help but be excited and shouted loudly. She had seen Lin Yi defeat Li Xingqian with one finger with her own eyes. In less than half a month, he had gone from the first stage to the 9th stage. How heaven-defying was this! Ever since Lin Yi fought in Luo province, she had not seen Lin Yi truly fight. Even when he was hunting demonic beasts, he did not use his real skills. Now, she hoped to see Lin Ye's powerful strength. Lin Yi, I hope you will not embarrass Shengu College. You took one of my attacks, I will also take one of yours. Jun Hanli was furious. He was a genius with an emperor physique. Could it be that he could not break the defense of a youth without a martial soul? This was obviously Lin Yi humiliating him. While speaking, he operated the Golden Flame Scripture to the extreme. The Golden Flame Scripture itself was of the Golden Flame attribute. Its attack power was incomparably terrifying. It was a high-grade heaven-class technique. Even if the spiritual mirror did not die, it would still be seriously injured. Against Lin Yi, it was a piece of cake. It could directly cripple him. Don't show off. You don't have the ability. Lin Yi smiled and stood in the center of the fighting ring, waiting for Jun Hanli to make his move. The difference between the Xiantian 3rd stage and the Xiantian 9th stage was not just a big gap. However, in the face of absolute defense, the Xiantian 9th stage was still Xiantian. As long as it did not exceed the scope of Xiantian, it would be impossible to break Lin Ye's absolute defense. Golden Flame Scripture, Violent Thunder Fist. Jun Hanli listened to Lin Ye's words and was really angry. He knew that if this continued, he would definitely be driven mad by Lin Yi. Without the slightest hesitation, his hands moved and his body flashed strangely. He punched towards Lin Yi. Suddenly, the air was distorted and a sonic boom was heard. His fist even exuded a terrifying fiery golden glow. If this punch hit, even a spiritual mirror expert would be seriously injured or even die. So, could Lin Yi really take this punch? This was the question in the hearts of countless people. The distance of 20 meters was covered by Jun Hanli in an instant. With a terrifying power, the fist fiercely bombarded in front of Lin Yi. Just when countless people thought that Lin Yi would be seriously injured and fall to the ground in the next moment, a magical scene appeared. They saw Lin Yi casually stroke with one hand and a blue Tai Chi diagram light shadow appeared. The Tai Chi diagram light shadow blocked in front of Lin Yi. Jun Hanli's fist also bombarded the Tai Chi diagram light shadow. Boom! With a muffled sound, the fist collided with the seemingly fragile Tai Chi diagram light shadow. The Tai Chi diagram light shadow unexpectedly did not shatter. Instead, it blocked the fist and was unable to move forward. What kind of defense is this? Can a Xiantian stage warrior use such a method? Isn't this a martial skill that only a void refinement stage warrior can use? What a magical defense! Jun Hanli's attack could not even break Lin Ye's defense. How strong is Lin Yi? By the way, he doesn't have a martial spirit, how can he be so strong? What a terrifying defense! With such a defense, he is invincible in the same realm. He is a Xiantian stage 3. A Xiantian stage 3 can take a full blow from a Xiantian stage 9. Everyone around the arena was shocked. Not only the Xiantian stage geniuses, but also the spiritual mirror experts were shocked by Lin Ye's move. No one was not shocked and envious because this move was too magical. You don't have a martial spirit, right? What kind of defensive skill is this? Jun Hanli stared blankly at his fist. His fist on the Tai Chi diagram light shadow was like a punch on cotton. It gave people a sense of powerlessness and could not move forward even an inch. He looked at Lin Yi in shock and asked. He knew that he had been defeated miserably. It was indescribable. Previously, he looked down on Lin Yi and humiliated Lin Yi. Now, he knew that Lin Yi did not put him in his eyes at all. Or, as Luo Bingyue said, he was just a jumping monkey in Lin Ye's eyes. It was a complete joke. His question was also the doubt in the hearts of everyone present. Chapter 21. Countless people looked at Lin Yi, wanting to know what Lin Ye's Tai Chi diagram was. One had to know that it was an existence that could easily block Jun Hanli's attack. With such a defensive martial skill, he would definitely be invincible among those of the same level. No comment. Lin Yi smiled and said indifferently. Lin Yi was completely calm and collected. His words made Jun Hanli choke. The cultivators around the dueling ground could not help but be stunned. However, they could not do anything about it. This was Lin Ye's right. If he wanted to say something, he could say it. If he did not want to say it, he could not say it. Moreover, this was a martial artist's secret. A powerful trump card would not be a trump card if it was revealed. Lin Yi, I'll take one of your attacks. Jun Hanli said loudly when he saw that Lin Yi was about to leave. He had attacked Lin Yi once, but he couldn't even break through Lin Ye's defense. Moreover, he was several realms higher than Lin Yi. Speaking of which, he had been thoroughly defeated. He had no face at all. Now, he said that he would take one of Lin Ye's attacks. If he could save some face. With his cultivation and skills, it would be easy for him to take one of Lin Ye's attacks. Okay, I'll give you a chance. Lin Yi nodded and looked at Jun Hanli indifferently. He stood tall and straight on the battle platform. Come on. Jun Hanli activated the flaming gold scripture and made a defensive stance. He looked at Lin Yi seriously. At this moment, he no longer dared to treat Lin Yi as an ordinary person. Instead, he treated him as a terrifying opponent. A person without a martial soul but was very powerful. It made people feel fear of the unknown. If Lin Yi had a peerless emperor physique or even a saint physique, Jun Hanli would have some confidence. No matter what physique it was, there would be limits and record. It was all within control. He was afraid of the unknown. A profound martial skill should not be as good as yours. However, I'll let you see the power of a profound martial skill today. Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand, forming a sword art. However, he did not use a long sword. His hand was empty. While countless people were feeling shocked and curious, Lin Yi used his finger as a sword. A ray of sword qi appeared at the tip of his finger. The moment the sword qi appeared, it transformed into 6 rays of sword qi that shot towards Jun Hanli. Wherever the sword light passed, the space trembled slightly. The sword light instantly covered the distance of 20 meters. Hiss 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 hiss. At this moment, a hissing sound could be heard from the fighting stage. It was the sound of Jun Hanli's defense colliding with the sword radiance. Out of the 6 sword lights, 4 were blocked by Jun Hanli. After blocking 4 sword lights, Jun Hanli retreated dozens of steps. The remaining 2 sword lights landed on his body, causing 2 bloody holes to appear on his body. The powerful destructive power and impact of the sword beams sent Jun Hanli flying. Finally, he fell heavily on the edge of the fighting ring. Jun Hanli only felt a sweetness in his throat, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Instantly, his face turned incomparably pale. This time, he was seriously injured. Not only was his body injured, but his heart was also injured. After Lin Yi displayed the sword light, he did not have the intention to make another move. From the beginning to the end, he did not move at all. Thunderclap sword technique. This is the thunderclap sword technique. The 6th sword, the thunderclap sword technique. 6 sword lights. This is the thunderclap sword technique. Is a mystic ranked martial arts technique really that powerful? He has only entered Xingwu College for less than half a year, and he has actually cultivated the thunderclap sword technique to the 6th sword. In the entire Xingwu College, he is the first person to cultivate the thunderclap sword technique to the 6th sword. This is too amazing. Teacher said that only 1,000 years ago, someone had cultivated the thunderclap sword technique to the 6th sword. After a short moment of silence, the fighting arena exploded with shocked voices. For a moment there was a lot of discussion. All the students of Xinwu College were shocked by the thunderclap sword technique that Lin Yi had just displayed. Without using a sword, he had actually used his fingers as a substitute for a sword. If it were them, they would not be able to do it. No one had been able to cultivate the sixth sword, but Lin Yi had succeeded in less than half a year. I have lost. Jun Hanli stood up and looked seriously at Lin Yi as he spoke. After speaking, he left the fighting arena and walked out of Xinwu College. This time, coming to Xinwu College was the biggest mistake of his life. He did not expect a young man without a martial soul to be so terrifying. Some emperor bodies could not be compared to him at all. What was more terrifying was that this young man was very low-key, so low-key that it made people feel afraid. Lin Yi did not speak. He turned and walked down the fighting arena, leaving the fighting arena with Luo Xing, and the others. Although Jun Hanli and Lin Yi had left, the news of Lin Ye's terrifying defense and the sixth sword quickly spread. Countless geniuses of Xinwu College were shocked. They did not expect that Jun Hanli, a genius with an emperor body, would be defeated by Lin Yi, a young man without a martial soul. In particular, the defense and the sixth sword made people feel powerless. In less than half a year, he had cultivated the sixth sword, and his attack was unparalleled in the upper sky realm. With a domineering defense, he was invincible among those of the same level. At this moment, no one dared to look down on Lin Yi. No one dared to say that Lin Yi did not have a martial soul. Countless geniuses and experts who did not know Lin Yi remembered this name. Brother-in-law, you are too powerful. That strong defense is simply invincible. The sixth sword of the Thunder Crash sword art is invincible. Luo Xing held Lin Ye's hand and said excitedly. She looked as if the one who defeated Jun Hanli was not Lin Yi, but herself. In fact, she was even happier that Lin Yi defeated Jun Hanli than that she defeated Jun Hanli. Luo Bingyue looked at Luo Xing and could not help but frown. However, she reacted quickly. She no longer had a promise with Lin Yi. She was also not Lin Ye's fiancée. It was normal for Luo Xing to be close to Lin Yi. Seeing this, she felt an inexplicable sense of loss. However, thinking about it, even if she had a promise with Lin Yi, Luo Xing would still stick to Lin Yi. She could only shake her head secretly towards her younger sister. Unfortunately, that defense is not suitable for you. That defense is called the absolute defense. Only I can cultivate it. Otherwise, I will teach you the absolute defense. Lin Yi smiled. He wasn't happy about defeating Jun Hanli. In other words, he didn't care about Jun Hanli at all. Jun Hanli was just a genius with a little aptitude. Absolute defense. It is indeed powerful. Luo Bingyue said. The name of this martial skill was indeed the same as its power. The absolute defense could be said to be impeccable. Even Jun Hanli's violent thunder fist could not shake it. She believed in Lin Ye's words. This kind of magical defense could only be cultivated by Lin Yi, who did not have a martial spirit. Lin Yi was full of mysteries. Without a martial spirit, he could comprehend the Luo Water True Scripture and reach the Hotian 9th stage in less than half a month. Without a martial spirit, he could cultivate the sixth sword of the Thunderclap sword art in less than half a year. Without a martial spirit, he could have an impeccable defense. It could be said to be the absolute defense. Without a martial spirit, he was the person who had a promise. The promise from 800 years ago. The person who appeared in front of her was a youth without a martial spirit and cultivation. All of this was too mysterious and magical. If young Master Lin uses a level 9 spirit tool, will he kill Jun Hanli with one sword? Luo Linger asked curiously. If Lin Yi could injure Jun Hanli with a finger instead of a sword, would he be able to kill Jun Hanli with one sword if he used a level 9 spirit tool? If so, then it would be terrifying. After all, Jun Hanli was a super genius with a king body. No. Geniuses like him all have trump cards and life-saving means. Mr. said that the biggest winner in this world is not success or failure, but who can live longer and more freely. Only those who can live freely are the real winners. Lin Yi didn't hesitate in the slightest and answered directly. Although he used a finger instead of a sword to injure Jun Hanli with the sixth sword, he was not sure if he could kill him. Even if he used the Heavenly Flame Sacred Blade and the 10th Layer Destruction Blade, unless he used an invincible attack. Moreover, things in this world were not set in stone. Everything was subject to change. Brother-in-law, don't challenge the top 10 disciples. What do you think? In a few days we will go to the secret land to train together. Luo Xing'er held Lin Ye's hand and kept shaking it. She looked up at him and begged. She could not let such a talented brother-in-law slip away. This elder sister of hers really made her worry. The secret land training. When will it be? Lin Yi did not answer Luo Xing'er. Instead, he looked at Luo Bingyue. With Luo Bingyue's talent and identity, although she would not go to the secret land to train, she would know a lot of information that he did not know. She should know about the secret land training. The secret land training will be in 5 days. This time, the secret land training will be a new secret land. Although it is a basic secret land, everything in the new secret land is unknown. There are many opportunities, but there are more unknown dangers. Everything is unknown. This is the news of the secret land training. Take a look. Luo Bingyue said. After that, she handed a jade slip to Lin Yi. Lin Yi took the jade slip and entered it with his divine sense. Suddenly, the information in the jade slip was imprinted into his mind. In the Sky Sea realm, and even the entire divine continent, the secret land was divided into levels. The levels were based on the level of danger, the level of opportunities, and the amount of resources. Basic secret land, intermediate secret land, advanced secret land, and super secret land. Above the super secret land there were some magical places. However, ordinary experts could not come into contact with these places. The secret land that Shengu College allowed new disciples to enter was a new secret land. Everything in it was unknown. It was classified as a basic secret land because the danger was not great. Only those in the innate realm and the spiritual mirror could enter. Those above the innate realm would be blocked by restrictions. The so-called secret land was actually a small independent world or a ruin left behind from ancient times. It was just that these secret land and independent worlds were not parallel to this plane. After a while, Lin Yi finished reading the information in the jade slip. This secret land was indeed good. It was suitable for the Shengu College's disciples to train. There is another news. This time, the new disciples of the 4 colleges will enter the secret land together. Chapter 22. The newcomers of the 4 academies are going to train together? Luo Xing'er and Luo Ling'er exclaimed. The 4 academies competed with each other and the students competed with each other. They had never joined forces before. They did not expect that this time, the 4 academies would train their disciples together. This time, the 4 academies had recruited more than 20,000 geniuses. With more than 20,000 geniuses entering the secret territory, the competition would definitely be fierce. Not only that. This time, the training is not limited to the innate stage newcomers. Luo Bingyue said lightly. She also wanted to go to the secret territory, but Shenwu College had a rule that before the successor disciples surpassed the spiritual mirror, they could not enter the secret territory and could not leave Shenwu College. Therefore, it was impossible for her to enter the secret territory. What? Not only the innate stage newcomers? Could it be that the spiritual mirror will also enter the secret territory? The spiritual mirror will enter the secret territory with the innate stage? Lin Yi, Luo Xing'er and Luo Ling'er could not help but be surprised when they heard Luo Bingyue's words. Their eyes were all looking at Luo Bingyue. This was definitely a big news for them. Indeed, in addition to this year's innate stage newcomers, The previous batch of geniuses who did not enter the spiritual mirror will also enter this new secret territory. It is estimated that the number of people will reach more than 30,000 or even 40,000. When you enter, you have to be careful with every step. Not only do you have to pay attention to the unknown dangers, but you also have to be wary of the warriors of the 4 academies. Luo Bingyue said some information about the secret territory as they walked. This time, the secret territory was different from the past. In the past, only Shenwu College had innate stage warriors. This time, the 4 academies joined forces and even the spiritual mirror was dispatched. It seems that we have to prepare well. With the appearance of the spiritual mirror, the innate stage warriors can only rely on luck. There should be some restrictions for the spiritual mirror. After listening to Luo Bingyue, Lin Yi couldn't help but take a deep breath. Training in the hidden territory was different from training in Shenwu College. Fighting was strictly prohibited in Shenwu College, and even the kingdom forbade killing each other. However, when it came to the wilderness and the hidden territory, no one cared. When encountering treasures, killing others to seize the treasures was a very normal thing. Originally, he thought that if it was just the new innate experts from Shenwu College, he would be able to defeat them easily. This was because Emperor Physique geniuses wouldn't be able to enter. As for the other geniuses, he didn't care about them at all. But now, with the 4 great academies working together, there were even spirit-driving realm cultivators going in. The new secret realm is full of unknowns. Danger is accompanied by opportunity. The training time for a secret territory is usually half a year, but the time for a new secret territory is hard to say. You guys should prepare well. I have already reached the peak of Xiantian 9th stage, and am not far from the spirit movement mirror. I am preparing to go into seclusion and practice. Although Luo Bingyue was cold and unapproachable, she treated people with respect. However, she didn't treat her own people the same way she treated outsiders. This was especially so when Lin Yi, Luo Ling and Luo Xing went out to train and encountered a new mystic realm. She was worried. If something went wrong, it would be a farewell forever. Her cultivation had already reached the peak of Xiantian 9th stage, and it was only a matter of time before she broke through to the spirit movement mirror. Soon, the 4 of them returned to the Xian Ice Palace. Lin Yi promised Luo Xing that he wouldn't challenge the top 10 disciples. This meant that he would live in the Xian Ice Palace, which made Luo Xing and Luo Ling very happy. We will go to the hidden territory in 5 days. Everything that needs to be prepared is almost ready. I hope there will be some gains in the hidden territory. In the room of the pavilion, Lin Yi sat cross-legged and talked to himself. The 3,000 heavenly Tao automatically operated, calming him down. In fact, everything he had was in the 9-fold space. The 9-fold space was 10 miles in length, width, and height. No matter how many things there were, it could be stored. He could go anywhere he wanted. In his 9-fold space, he divided it into several separate areas. One was to store spiritual weapons and cultivation items. The other was to store precious items. The other was to store things that he needed at any time. The other was to store daily necessities and dry food. The other was where he cultivated, and there were a few areas that were temporarily empty. Time passed day by day. On this day, Lin Yi was cultivating. When he sensed the arrival of Luo Xing and Luo Ling he stopped and waited for the 2 girls. Because today was the day to go to the hidden territory. Brother-in-law, brother-in-law. Luo Xing's sweet and clear voice sounded. When the voice sounded, she had already pushed the door open and entered. Lin Yi could only shake his head helplessly. Soon, Luo Xing's beautiful figure appeared in Lin Ye's line of sight. She was still wearing a black dress. Her fine black hair hung down to her waist, and there was a small jade bow on her head. It looked small and exquisite, and it was incomparably beautiful. It made Luo Xing look even more lovely and beautiful. Yes, I'm not deaf. Lin Yi answered in a bad mood. He pointed to the chairs beside him and let Luo Xing and Luo Ling, who came later, sit down. Brother-in-law, you're still cultivating? The disciples who are going to the hidden territory have already gathered. Seeing Lin Ye's unhurried manner, Luo Xing couldn't help but feel anxious. She couldn't sit down at all. She came to Lin Ye's side and wanted to pull Lin Yi up, worried that he would miss the experience. Be more steady like your sister. Are you all ready? We need to stay in the hidden territory for at least half a year. Lin Yi was pulled up by Luo Xing. He tidied up his clothes and lectured Luo Xing. The two sisters looked exactly the same, but their personalities were completely opposite. One was cold, calm, and steady. The other was lively and loved to move. Young Master Lin, we're ready, Luo Ling said. As she spoke, she waved the storage pouch in her hand. Take this. Don't use it unless you have no other choice. Lin Yi muttered to himself for a moment, and took out some runes from the ninefold space, as well as a few spirit weapons. If these two girls, Luo Ling and Luo Xing encountered danger in the hidden territory, it really made him worry. Rune, 3rd level rune. This is a 4th level rune. Spirit Sword rune, 3rd level peerless grade. Clear Breeze rune, 4th level lower grade. Wow, they're all 3rd level and 4th level runes. Luo Xing and Luo Ling looked at the runes and spirit weapons that Lin Yi gave them. They directly ignored the spirit weapons because they were only 4th or 5th level. Compared to the 9th level spirit weapons that Lin Yi gave them before, they were on a completely different level. However, they were stunned by the runes, and their faces were filled with excitement and shock. That's right, the runes that Lin Yi gave Luo Xing and Luo Ling were all 3rd level and 4th level runes. Moreover, they had both defense and attack runes, but the most important one was the runes for escape. For example, the Clear Breeze rune. Using the Clear Breeze rune could increase one's speed by several times. With these runes, even if they encountered the spirit movement mirror, they were completely confident that they could escape with their lives, and even kill the spirit movement mirror. Of course, Lin Yi wouldn't give them too many. If he gave them too many runes, the two girls would become dependent on the runes. This way, they would lose the purpose of training, and it would affect their future. 3 Clear Breeze runes, 3 Spirit Sword runes, and 3 Golden Shield runes. Both of them had 9 runes, which were enough to deal with an ordinary spirit movement mirror. Don't rely on them. They are used to save your life, Lin Yi said seriously. After entering the secret territory, everything was unknown. Although the three of them were together, they might be randomly teleported inside. After separating, without his protection, the two girls could only rely on their luck and their own strength. The runes would give them some extra trump cards. Thank you, brother-in-law. Thank you, young Master Lin. Luo Xing put away the runes and spirit weapons. She was incomparably happy. She tiptoed and kissed Lin Yi on the cheek. Immediately, her beautiful little face revealed a touch of red. Luo Ling who was on the side, was also shocked by Luo Xing's actions. She also thanked Lin Yi, but she didn't dare to be like Luo Xing. After that, Lin Yi, Luo Xing and Luo Ling left the profound ice palace together and walked towards the plaza of Paladin Academy. The students who had entered the secret realm to train would gather at the plaza. For a time, countless students rushed to the square to gather. The three of them could see Xingwu College students heading to the square everywhere. The appearance of Luo Xing and Luo Ling stunned countless students. When they saw Lin Yi together, they were incomparably envious and even more jealous. Some students who heard that Lin Yi defeated Jun Hanli all nodded and greeted Lin Yi. Junior brother Lin. Senior brother Lin. Sister Luo. Along the way, many students greeted Lin Yi and the other two. Those who greeted Lin Yi were all people who knew of Lin Yi's deeds. When they greeted Luo Ling and Luo Xing it was because of the beauty effect. No matter where they went, beauties were the focus of attention. Who is he? How do you address him as senior brother Lin? He looks like he's only 15 or 16 years old. After Lin Yi and the others passed by, a young genius at the peak of Xiantian Stage 9 whispered to his senior brother. One must know that his senior brother was at the peak of Xiantian Stage 9 and was only one step away from spirit formation. How could he address a youth as senior brother? And from the looks of it, his senior brother was very respectful to that youth. He's called Lin Yi. He's the fiancé of the one in the mystic ice palace. He doesn't have a martial spirit. Hearing his junior brother's words, the senior brother glanced at him and said in a low voice. While speaking, he looked at Lin Yi's back. If it was before, he would definitely look down on Lin Yi and even disdain Lin Yi. But after seeing Lin Yi defeat Jun Hanli in the battle, he didn't dare to have any thoughts about Lin Yi. Jun Hanli couldn't even withstand a single blow from Lin Yi, let alone himself. Mystic Ice Palace, Luo Bingyue. Luo Bingyue's fiancé. No martial spirit, how funny. Senior brother, could it be that you greeted Lin Yi because of Luo Bingyue? You don't have to be like this, right? With your cultivation, even if you're not as good as Luo Bingyue, you don't have to address Lin Yi as senior brother. Hearing his senior brother's words, the junior brother couldn't help but find it funny. What kind of place was the Mystic Ice Palace? It was the place where one of the two super geniuses with emperor physique lived. It was also the place where the number one beauty of Shengwu College, Luo Bingyue, was known by everyone. At the end, the junior brother looked at his senior brother in confusion. Funny! You know Jun Hanli, right? The senior brother looked at his junior brother and couldn't help but shake his head. Chapter 23. Jun Hanli. I know what's wrong. The junior brother looked at his senior brother and asked. Jun Hanli can't even withstand a single blow from him. He's even more monstrous than Luo Bingyue. In less than half a year, the sixth sword of the Thunderclap sword art. If there's anyone that shouldn't be provoked in the past 100 years, it's him. Try not to provoke him in the future. After the senior brother finished speaking, he walked towards the square. The junior brother listened to his senior brother's words and was completely stunned. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would be so terrifying. That Lin Yi had completely subverted his understanding. A youth without a martial spirit, could he really be so terrifying? However, after asking around a little, he knew that Lin Yi's existence was even more terrifying than what his senior brother had said. Although he didn't have a martial spirit, a genius with an emperor body was completely vulnerable in front of him. In other words, comparing talent and bloodline was absolutely asking for humiliation. At this moment, the square was already crowded with nearly 10,000 Shengwu College students. Most of these students were this year's Innate Realm disciples. The rest were from the previous year's Innate Realm, and a portion of them were Spirit-Driving Realm experts. Lin Yi. Lin Yi. He's Lin Yi. He's different from the rumors. Lin Yi. At this moment, the warriors who were preparing to enter the secret territory had basically all arrived. There were still a small number of them who came one after another. The square was divided into different areas. Spirit-Driving Realms area. New Disciples area. Previous Innate Realm Disciples area. The appearance of Lin Yi and Luo Xing made many people recognize them. For a time, Lin Yi became the topic of discussion for countless students. Even the previous year's geniuses and spirit-driving realm experts looked at Lin Yi in a new light. His strength is not weaker than the top 10 disciples. The main opponents for this new secret territory are the other 3 colleges and the unknown secret territory. Innate realm experts, no matter how strong they can't be our opponents. If we give him another 2 years, he might become our opponent. He's only at Innate Realm 3rd stage. It'll take him at least 4 or 5 years to reach Innate Realm 9th stage. After 4 or 5 years, we'll become stronger. If he wants to be our opponent, he's still lacking. Some veteran innate realm and spirit-driving realm experts knew that Lin Yi was strong, but they didn't put him in their eyes. In other words, they didn't see Lin Yi as an opponent. The gap between the spirit-moving mirror and the innate realm was like a heavenly moat. Lin Yi's divine sense was powerful, and countless discussions were transmitted to his ears. But he turned a blind eye to it and pretended not to hear it. Their mouths were on other people's bodies, so it was impossible to block everyone's mouth. Besides, what these people were discussing didn't affect him at all. If they were discussing something offensive, he would have shut them up long ago. Time passed by second. At noon, all the Paladin Academy students who were going to the secret realm had gathered at the plaza. The secret territory is officially open. Shenwu College's new disciples, the previous batch of innate realm disciples, and some spirit-driving realm disciples will enter the secret territory together. Along with you, there will be other 3 colleges. Don't lose face for Shenwu College. Although entering the secret territory is not a death sentence, it's still very dangerous. I hope you can come back alive. This is a new secret territory. It's estimated that it will take half a year, at most a year. Then, the secret territory's spirit will send you out. At this time, an old man from Shenwu College appeared in everyone's line of sight. The old man was 70 years old. His strength couldn't be seen, but his body exuded a powerful and mysterious aura. His loud voice was like a bell, spreading throughout the entire sacred martial square. After the old man finished speaking, he pointed to the altar at the edge of the sacred martial square. All the warriors and powerhouses in the square looked at the altar. On the altar, 9 gray-robed old men were activating the array. The array exuded a mysterious and obscure aura. Bursts of light soared into the sky, dazzling. Rumble, rumble. With a series of muffled sounds, the array was activated. This was the transmission array of Shenwu College. It could send a large number of Shenwu College's students out. Let's go. Someone shouted. Immediately, countless warriors ran toward the transmission array of the altar, as if they were afraid of falling behind. The huge altar and the magical transmission array were like a bottomless black hole, swallowing countless Shenwu College's students. Lin Yi, Luo Xing'er, and Luo Ling also ran toward the transmission array. Finally, they entered the transmission array. The 3 of them held hands, afraid of being separated. As soon as they got close to the altar, Lin Yi felt a strong suction force pulling him in. In an instant, without any resistance, the 3 of them disappeared in the light of the transmission array. 1 second. 2 seconds. For a full 30 seconds, Lin Yi was rapidly being transmitted in the light. His body couldn't move at all, as if he was imprisoned. After 30 seconds, the imprisonment disappeared. The light in front of him also disappeared. His whole body was suspended in the air and then fell straight down. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi was shocked. He quickly stabilized his body and descended. If he wasn't careful, he would definitely die if he fell from a height of 10 meters. Cool Breeze Shadow activated, and when it landed on the ground, the impact was completely negated. When he appeared, he also discovered countless Shenwu College's students. These students were like him. It was their first time using such a transmission array. Seeing them fall, they hurriedly stabilized their bodies and descended. For a moment, the air was like dumplings as countless students fell. After a moment, all the students who were transmitted stood on the ground. More than 5,000 students, a black mass. They were all innate and spirit manipulation realm cultivators. Lin Yi looked around. This place was a wilderness. However, he found a strong aura in the sky. It was the aura of countless strong warriors gathered together. Needless to say, the place where they appeared was not far from the secret territory. In front of us is the entrance to the secret territory. The people from the other 3 colleges have arrived. Let's hurry over. This time, when we enter the secret territory, everyone try to get as many precious herbs and resources as possible. At the same time, this secret territory has already formed a weapon spirit. If it exceeds the spirit manipulation realm, it will be destroyed by force. Let's go. The old man appeared in everyone's sight. After that, he led all the Shenwu College's disciples and ran towards the sky. Innate and spirit manipulation realm cultivators couldn't fly in the air. They could only run. Naturally, no one could bring the flying car because it was too big. The storage bag couldn't hold it at all. Of course, if it was Lin Ye's ninefold space, it would be no problem at all. Whoosh 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 whoosh. For a moment the earth trembled. Figures rushed towards the sky. In a moment they covered a distance of 10 miles. Everyone came in front of a huge lake. The lake had a radius of 100 miles. The lake water was so clear that the bottom could be seen. However, the closer to the center, the greener the lake water became, giving people a peaceful feeling. There were countless martial artists around the lake. These warriors were all students from the 4 colleges of the Yunshui Kingdom. The 4 colleges were Shenwu College, Nanfeng College, Sky Sword College, and Qinyan College. Among the 4 colleges, Sky Sword College was the most powerful. It had the largest number of people and was the most powerful. Most of the warriors in Sky Sword College practiced sword principle. Sword principle attacks were powerful. They were basically invincible among the same level. Except for Sky Sword College, the strength of the other 3 colleges was almost the same. This time, the 4 colleges worked together. The new disciples entered the secret territory together to gain experience. This was definitely the first time in hundreds of years, because the secret territory they entered this time was new and full of unknowns. In other words, everyone entered to explore the situation of the secret territory and unearth resources. The appearance of the Shenwu College students made the other 3 colleges look at them with hostility. Lin Yi also felt a strong hostility. This hostility was not directed at him alone, but at the whole Shenwu College. In fact, not to mention the other 3 colleges, even in Shenwu College there were not many who knew Lin Yi. Naturally, the others did not know Lin Yi at all. They did not know who Lin Yi was. This time, Sky Sword College is still the strongest. Let's not talk about the innate realm. They have a lot of spirit-driving realm experts inside. This new secret territory seems to restrict people above the 5th layer of the spirit-driving realm and above to those above the age of 30. Those above the 5th layer of the spirit-driving realm cannot enter. Those above the age of 30 also cannot enter. If there was no spirit-driving realm, we might have some hope. But with a spirit-driving realm expert, we basically have no chance. Not necessarily. Entering the secret territory also depends on luck. By the lake, the students of the 4 colleges were discussing in low voices. There were a total of 40,000 martial artists gathered here, causing the air to emit traces of oppressive aura. If one's cultivation base and state of mind were low, they would feel suffocated in front of this oppressive aura. Lin Yi, Luo Ling and Luo Xing were mixed in with the students of Shenwu College. Although they did not know where the entrance to the secret territory was, it was definitely related to this lake. Before the entrance to the secret territory opened, everyone could only wait by the lake, waiting for the secret territory to open. Time passed by minute until it was late at night. When the moon was full, the bright moon was like a round plate hanging in the dark night sky. The moonlight scattered a faint radiance, enveloping the entire lake. When the full moon was in the sky, the tranquil full moon emitted a ray of light. The light penetrated the space and fell on the lake. Suddenly, the water in the lake turned into light and quickly evaporated. In just 10 seconds, the water in the lake, which had a radius of 100 miles, completely disappeared. At the same time, a light altar appeared in the center of the lake. The altar was formed by light and shadow, mysterious and magical. The light above the altar merged with the light of the full moon. Rumble rumble as the light merged, the heaven and earth emitted a roaring sound. A huge suction force spread quickly with the altar as the center. Within 100 miles, everything was sucked into the light by the mysterious suction force. Finally, everything disappeared into the light of the altar. No one knew where it went. Seeing this, the powerhouses of the 4 colleges, who were above the 5th stage of the spirit-driving realm and under the age of 30, quickly retreated. Only the students who entered the secret territory were quickly sucked away by the suction force. In the end, a total of 40,000 innate and spirit-driving realm martial artists were sucked away by the light of the altar and disappeared between heaven and earth. The lake water that originally disappeared was now in the lake. The altar disappeared, the light disappeared. 40,000 martial artists disappeared, but the lake water remained the same. Chapter 24. The martial artists of the 4 academies were taken away by the light above the altar. Lin Yi didn't have the slightest ability to resist and let the mysterious power engulf him. The light wrapped around him and moved quickly. At this moment, he felt that his fate was controlled by someone and he only felt powerless. Time passed second by second. After a full 20 seconds, Lin Yi felt a powerful force distorting the space. This force was not something he could stop. Following this force, his whole body was thrown out. The light disappeared and his whole body strangely appeared in midair. His body fell down quickly. The Luo Water Sutra was activated to reduce the speed of the fall as much as possible so that he wouldn't fall to his death. If that happened, he would become a big joke. Of course, Xiantian martial artists couldn't fly in the air. If they suddenly appeared in the air, they would fall to their death. When he was about to reach the ground, Lin Yi used Cool Breeze Shadow. Crack with a crisp sound, the sound of a withered branch breaking, Lin Yi landed on the ground. After landing, Lin Yi looked around. The spirit qi is so dense. Lin Yi said to himself. The first impression that this place gave him was the dense spirit qi. It was 4 to 5 times denser than the mystic ice palace of Shengwu College. Cultivating here was 4 to 5 times faster than cultivating in the mystic ice palace. Moreover, the environment here was very good. The air was fresh, the flowers were fragrant, and the spirit qi was dense. It was like a fairyland. It was completely unlike the terrifying and dangerous secret realms in the legends that made people intoxicated. However, Chu Yun understood that the real danger didn't necessarily come from the environment. The real danger didn't necessarily come from a gloomy and terrifying place. This new secret realm was full of unknowns and even had very powerful beasts. Where are Xing and Ling? It seems that the teleportation is random. I hope they can be safe. Lin Yi retracted his gaze. In his divine consciousness and vision, not to mention Luo Xing and Luo Ling he didn't even find a single human. He didn't even see a single beast. Generally, this kind of teleportation was basically random. When they came in, they were separated by the power of distortion. Both of them were only innate rankers. Furthermore, they were girls. In such an unknown place, they could only rely on their own luck and strength. He had no way to help them. Besides, even he himself was not that safe. It could only be said that there were too many strong geniuses from the 4 great academies, and there was also the powerful spirit movement mirror. Whoosh, whoosh. Next, Lin Yi ran quickly. After 3 days, he finally figured out the general environment of this place. Here, he met several martial artists. Some were from Shengwu College, and some were from the other 3 colleges. Of course, there were also beasts. The beasts were all above the profound rank, which was equivalent to a spirit mirror martial artist. Several times, he was almost injured by the powerful profound stage demonic beast. Fortunately, his strength was not bad. Coupled with his powerful defense and attack, he was able to escape from the profound stage demonic beast. This place is really dangerous. Without the cultivation of the spirit movement mirror, it's really hard to move an inch. Lin Yi escaped from a huge profound stage demonic beast. Looking behind him, he finally got rid of the powerful profound stage demonic beast. His heart relaxed a little. Finding a safe and hidden place, he sat cross-legged and began to recover his energy. After these 3 days of exploration, he already had a general understanding. In general, the spiritual energy was rich, the beasts were strong, and there were many martial artists. Unknown dangers came one after another. His cultivation was still too low. If he could raise his cultivation to the innate 9th stage, or even reach the spirit movement mirror, he might have a better chance of survival. Let's raise my cultivation to the innate 4th stage first. Lin Yi pondered for a while and decided. In this secret realm with rich spiritual energy, he had to raise his strength first. If his strength was too low, he could only run when encountering beasts. If he encountered strong people, he could only run. There was no chance to find any opportunities. Even if he found opportunities and treasures, he did not have the ability to obtain them. While speaking, a pill appeared in his hand. Rank 3 Spirit Pill, True Elemental Pill. It was suitable for innate and spirit movement mirror martial artists to increase their true essence. The power and preciousness of the true elemental pill was reflected in its effect. It could improve the cultivation of martial artists. A true elemental pill that cost 300,000 gold coins was not something that ordinary martial artists could afford. After refining a true elemental pill, Lin Ye's cultivation increased by a little. Time passed day by day. Every day, Lin Yi refined 10 true elemental pills. After 6 days, Lin Yi only had a few true elemental dawn left in his hands. These were the true elemental dawn he had bought with 30 million gold coins, and now they were almost used up. Fortunately, his cultivation had also improved by a large margin. Innate 5th stage. Yes, in just 6 days, Lin Ye's cultivation had reached the innate 5th stage. Whoosh whoosh, his cultivation had improved, and his strength had increased by a lot. If he continued to cultivate like this, at most he would increase his cultivation by a little. It would not increase his strength by much. Moreover, the purpose of entering the secret realm was not to cultivate, but to find opportunities and resources. After a little tidying up, his figure flashed and he used cool breeze shadow. His whole person turned into a cool breeze and ran away. Jade Spirit Flower, this is a Jade Spirit Flower. 100-year Jade Spirit Flower, this time I'm rich. In the secret realm, there were dangers, but there were also opportunities and opportunities. Countless precious treasures were found by the warriors of the 4 major academies. The Jade Spirit Flower was a kind of treasure. It could directly increase a post-celestial realm warrior's cultivation by a level. It could also greatly increase the cultivation of a spirit manipulation realm warrior. It could also be refined into precious spirit pills. A prodigy of Sky Sword Academy, who was at the post-celestial 8th stage, saw the Jade Spirit Flower and recognized it. He was suddenly very excited. Dragon Grass. 2 stalks of dragon grass. A prodigy of South Wind Academy, who was at the 1st level of spirit manipulation realm, accidentally saw 2 stalks of dragon grass. His face was filled with excitement, but it was replaced with seriousness. Because not far from the dragon grass, there was a huge mystic rank level 2 demon beast. A mystic rank level 2 demon beast was comparable to the 2nd level of spirit manipulation realm. With his strength, he could fight with the mystic rank level 2 demon beast, but to kill it, the chances were very small. Even if he could kill the mystic rank level 2 demon beast and get the dragon grass, he would be seriously injured. Roar, not good, a mystic rank level 6 flying eagle. An earth-shattering roar could be heard. When the roar was heard, a dark cloud appeared in the sky. The dark cloud was at least 30 meters in size. The dark cloud was moving quickly. When the dark cloud got closer, they realized that it was not a dark cloud, but a gigantic flying demon beast. And it was a mystic rank level 6 flying eagle. Flying demon beasts were one of the most terrifying existences among the demon beasts because they could fly, but human warriors could not. They could only passively take a beating. Seeing the flying eagle, a few of the post-celestial warriors and spirit manipulation realm warriors who were fighting for the treasures had their faces changed. They did not dare to stay any longer and used their fastest speed to escape. They did not even bother to fight for the treasures. However, the flying eagle's speed was terrifying, and the strength of its claws was terrifying. With every claw, a post-celestial or spirit manipulation realm warrior would fall. In just a few seconds, the 8 human martial artists had all fallen. Moreover, their bodies were almost completely shattered by the soaring condor's claws. Blood splattered everywhere, and in just a short while, the 8 human martial artists had all become food for the soaring condor. Hiss, 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 hiss in the sky, an invisible wind would appear from time to time. The wind was invisible, and anyone who touched it would die. No one knew how many warriors had died from the wind. No one knew how many warriors had died from unknown dangers. No one knew how many warriors had died from being eaten by the demon beast. No one knew how many warriors had died from being killed by their own kind for treasures. Of course, there were also many martial artists who were lucky enough to obtain fortuitous encounters and natural treasures. Art of the Thundercrash Sword, 7th Sword. On this day, in a wasteland, Lin Yi was waving a rank 6 spiritual artifact longsword. As the longsword slashed out, a sword ray and sword chi shot out. In front of him was a silver snow wolf of the mystic rank level 2. Roar. Feeling the threat of death, the silver snow wolf let out a howl. It wanted to dodge the countless sword rays, but it was too late. Boom. A sword ray and sword chi fell on the silver snow wolf's body. The silver snow wolf unwillingly fell to the ground and could no longer stand up. A powerful mystic rank level 2 demon beast had died from the 7th sword of the Thundercrash sword. The 7th sword is indeed powerful. It actually has sword intent in it. Lin Ye's face was filled with fatigue, but it could not hide his excitement. He also did not expect that he would be able to cultivate the 7th sword of the Thundercrash sword in the secret territory. The 7th sword was the complete stage of the Thundercrash sword, the most powerful existence. Although it was only a mystic rank martial skill, the 7th sword of the Thundercrash sword was comparable to a high rank or even a supreme rank earth rank martial skill. More importantly, he had managed to cultivate sword intent. The 7th sword was even more terrifying than the sword intent. During this period of time, ever since Lin Yi reached the Xiantian Stage 5, he had been fighting with demon beasts. The demon beasts in the secret territory were all at least mystic rank. When he was at the Xiantian Stage 5 and fought with mystic rank demon beasts, the difference was obvious. However, with his powerful spiritual artifact, the Luo Water Scripture, as well as his terrifying defense and attack, he was able to fight with mystic rank level 1 and level 2 demon beasts. In 11 days, Lin Yi had hunted 30 mystic rank level 1 demon beasts and 23 mystic rank level 2 demon beasts. In actual combat, it allowed his strength to soar rapidly. Not only did his realm increase, but his actual combat strength was also crazily accumulating. However, although he had hunted a lot of mystic rank demon beasts, he had also consumed some level 3 talismans. Whoosh, whoosh, just as Lin Yi was preparing to pack up the silver snow wolf's materials, a gust of wind sounded. He was very familiar with this sound of wind. This was the sound of a martial artist rushing through the air. Not daring to be careless, his eyes swept around, and at the same time, his divine sense spread out. Everything within a radius of 500 meters was seen in his eyes and imprinted in his mind. In his line of sight, a graceful figure was running quickly. Rather than saying that it was running, it was better to say that it was fleeing for its life. Moreover, the direction in which the silhouette was running was precisely in his direction. Her speed was extremely fast, and the distance between them was constantly closing. This also allowed Lin Yi to clearly see that the silhouette was a beautiful and delicate young girl, about 16 or 17 years old, wearing a light blue dress with a badge on the front of the dress on the left chest. This badge was the symbol of a student of Shengwu College, and he also had one. The girl was none other than Luo Ling. Not far behind Luo Ling, two young men were chasing after her at a leisurely pace. The two young men were both spirit mirror martial artists. Chapter 25. Seeing Luo Ling being chased, Lin Ye's killing intent rose in his heart. He knew that the two young men were chasing Luo Ling because they wanted something. It was either a treasure or because they valued Luo Ling's beauty and wanted to get their hands on Luo Ling. In this kind of mystic realm, it was normal to kill and steal treasures. It was also normal to burn, kill, and plunder. Especially a beautiful girl like Luo Ling, she was the target of countless warriors. Seeing Luo Ling, they naturally wouldn't let her go. Linger is quite lucky. I wonder how Xinger is doing. Lin Yi muttered to himself as he watched Luo Ling and the two young men running towards him. Although his expression was calm, the killing intent in his heart was even more intense. If Luo Ling didn't meet him, she would definitely be defiled. The consequences would be unimaginable. Thinking of this, his killing intent became even more intense. At the same time, he was even more worried about Luo Xinger. Although he had no relationship with Luo Bingyue, Luo Xinger had always treated him as her brother-in-law. Their relationship wasn't something ordinary friends could compare to. Run. Why aren't you running? The two young men, one in white and the other in blue, had a badge on their chest. There was an emblem on his left chest, Sky Sword Academy. Seeing Luo Ling stop in front of him, the young man in white revealed a playful smile. His eyes swept over Luo Ling's body and his heart was burning. Although this girl from Shengwu College had a low cultivation, she was very beautiful. However, Luo Ling didn't pay attention to the two young men behind her. Her beautiful eyes were looking forward. Finally, she couldn't suppress the grievance in her heart. Crystal-clear tears rolled down her cheeks, because she saw a familiar figure. Although that figure's cultivation wasn't high, he gave her trust. Young Master Lin. Luo Ling shouted, her voice still trembling. Ling. Lin Yi walked forward step by step with an encouraging smile on his face. Soon, he arrived in front of Luo Ling. His eyes swept over Luo Ling's body, and found that there were several scars on Luo Ling's body. Although these scars weren't fatal, they were painful. Needless to say, these scars were left by the two youths. Yo, I met a fellow disciple. No wonder you stopped running. The young man in white had also noticed Lin Ye's presence. However, he was curious as to why a puny Xiantian would dare to appear in front of them. When he spoke, his tone was strange. It was obvious that he did not think highly of an innate rancor. Now I'll give you 1 second to regret. Lin Ye's eyes were cold, and his voice was even colder. He could already tell that the two youths were both at the first stage of the spirit channeling realm. They were both geniuses of the Sky Sword Academy, and both of them were proficient in sword Dao martial skills. Their attacks were sharp and overbearing. However, this did not affect Lin Ye's determination to eliminate the two of them. The people from Shengwu College aren't that strong. But their degree of arrogance is definitely number 1 in the 4 major colleges. When the young man in blue heard Lin Ye's words, he could not help but be startled. Then, he became furious. A Xiantian martial artist dared to speak to them like this. He was simply courting death. He did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Die. Lin Yi stretched out his hand, and 2 talismans appeared in his hand. The 2 third-level talismans burst out with a terrifying sword chi. The sword chi condensed into a sword light, and the sword light went straight to the 2 youths. Suddenly, the air twisted and tore, and the wind raged. The third-level talisman was powerful enough to kill a 7th or 8th stage spirit-channeling realm martial artist. Dealing with 2 first-stage spirit-channeling realm martial artists was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. So what? Lin Yi had a lot of third-level talismans. Third-level talisman. Talisman again. In the air, the 2 sword lights slashed down. When the 2 youths saw the power of the talisman displayed by Lin Yi, they were shocked to death. They never thought that Lin Yi would have such a terrifying talisman. Previously, Luo Ling also used a talisman. Otherwise, Luo Ling would have been caught by them. Now that they met a Shengwu College Xiantian martial artist, he actually used a third-level talisman, and it was even a peerless-level talisman. For a moment, the 2 youths were shocked to death. This was a peerless-level third-level talisman that could kill a 7th or 8th stage spirit-channeling realm martial artist. At this moment, the 2 youths regretted it to death. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. They could only display the most powerful technique of the spirit-channeling realm and face the 2 sword light head-on, hoping to block the sword light in the air. Rumble rumble, the 2 youths from the Sky Sword Academy each displayed an overbearing sword light. Suddenly, the talisman's sword light collided with the 2 youths' sword light. There was an explosion in the air, and the air was distorted. The wind raged, and the flowers and trees within 100 meters were in a mess. Pucci, the 2 youths spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the 2 youths were not killed by the sword light. One must know that the physical defense of a spirit-channeling realm martial artist was not something that a Xiantian martial artist could compare to. Also, the attack of a spirit-channeling realm martial artist was far beyond the imagination of a Xiantian martial artist. A peerless-level third-level talisman was actually unable to kill a first-stage spirit-channeling realm martial artist. Seeing this, Lin Yi was even more convinced of the strength of a spirit-channeling realm martial artist. If his cultivation had not reached the Xiantian 8th or 9th stage, he would not be able to fight with a first-stage spirit-channeling realm martial artist. Of course, this was under a fair fight. If he used a powerful spiritual weapon and martial technique, he would be able to fight with a spirit-channeling realm martial artist. Thunderclap's sword art, 7th sword. Lin Yi was shocked, but he did not dare to hesitate. With a wave of his hand, a 7th-level spiritual weapon long sword appeared. As soon as the long sword appeared, the 7th sword of the Thunderclap sword art suddenly burst out. The terrifying sword light cut through the air and bombarded the youth in white. The sharp sword light carried sword intent and directly sent the youth in white flying. More than 10 bloody holes appeared on the youth in white. His forehead was also pierced through. There was no longer any trace of life. He could not be more dead. In the air, there were bursts of thunderous sounds. Thunderclap sword art? The youth in blue had just reacted from the terrifying attack of the talisman when he saw Lin Yi use the Thunderclap sword art to kill his companion. He was shocked and his face turned pale. At the same time, he was also puzzled. Was this really the Thunderclap sword art? However, there was no time for him to be shocked at this moment. Ignoring his serious injuries, his figure flashed and quickly escaped. This was because this youth from Shengwu College was too terrifying. No one in the entire Yunshui kingdom had been able to cultivate the 7th sword of the Thunderclap sword art for hundreds of years, but this youth was able to cultivate it. Moreover, this youth had a talisman on him. If he did not escape, he could only die here. Want to leave? Too late. When Lin Yi killed the youth in white, he noticed that the youth in blue wanted to escape. He said lightly, and the long sword in his hand drew a sword light. The sword light broke through the air and went straight to the youth in blue. The power of the 7th-level spiritual weapon, the tyrannical power of the 7th sword, and the sharpness of the sword intent fused together. Boom hiss in the air, the Thunderclap sword art was accompanied by the overbearing sound of thunder. Then, the sword light fell on the youth in blue. The youth in blue quickly escaped. The inertia rushed forward for dozens of meters before he stopped. When he stopped, his body had been cut in half by the sword light. First level of the spirit driving realm, dead. In just a few seconds, 2 Sky Sword Academy martial artists at the first level of the spirit driving realm were killed by Lin Yi. From the beginning to the end, Lin Ye's expression was calm, as if the person who killed the 2 spirit driving realm martial artists was not him. Sword intent. Luo Linger had been watching from the side. Because she knew that with her cultivation strength, she couldn't help Lin Yi at all. Instead, she would drag Lin Yi down. Seeing that Lin Yi had used the Thunderclap sword art to kill the 2 spirit moving realm cultivators, she couldn't help but be shocked. Her beautiful face was also filled with shock, because she could see that Lin Yi had already cultivated the Thunderclap sword art to the 7th sword. More importantly, Lin Yi controlled the sword intent. Even if it was only a trace of sword intent, this trace of sword intent was real. Linger, where's Xinger? Lin Yi took away the storage pouches from the 2 Sky Sword Academy martial artists and returned to Luo Linger and asked, "Young Master Lin, Linger did not meet Xinger. We separated when we were teleported into the secret territory," Luo Linger said. Thinking of the encounter in the secret territory, she still had a lingering fear. Fortunately, she met Lin Yi. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. How was the harvest? What happened just now? Lin Yi glanced at Luo Linger and saw that Luo Linger was already at the peak of the Xiantian 5th stage and was only 1 step away from the Xiantian 6th stage. She should have gained something in the secret territory. I did gain something. Young Master Lin, Linger found an underground palace. Look at this, it was because of this. Luo Linger nodded. She did gain something, and it was a big harvest. However, her cultivation strength was too low. Opportunities would always be opportunities, and could not be collected. As she spoke, a blood-red fruit appeared in her small hand. The fruit was the size of a fist and exuded a mysterious aura. Then she handed the fruit to Lin Yi without the slightest fear that Lin Yi would kill her and steal her treasure. Blood soul fruit. I didn't expect it to be a blood soul fruit. You got it in the underground palace? Lin Yi took the fruit and looked at it carefully. The expression on his face was constantly changing. Even when he obtained countless talismans, he was not so surprised. He did not expect that this fruit would actually make his heart move. He had already recognized that this fruit turned out to be the legendary Blood Soul fruit. Blood Soul fruit could enhance the spiritual power of a spirit sense master. This was exactly what he needed. Now that he had the spiritual power of the 21st step, if he wanted to upgrade his spiritual power, it would be countless times more difficult than upgrading his cultivation. However, if he had the Blood Soul fruit, then upgrading his spiritual power would become easy. Yes, outside the underground palace. I got a total of 3 Blood Soul fruits. But I was discovered by the people of Sky Sword Academy. There should be more Blood Soul fruits in that place. The people of Sky Sword Academy found out that I got the key to the underground palace and chased after me. Luo Linger took out a round blood jade. The blood jade exuded a mysterious pattern. For this blood jade, she was chased by the spirit sense mirror of Sky Sword Academy. If she had not met Lin Yi, she really did not dare to imagine what would have happened to her. Is there anyone else in that place? When Lin Yi heard Luo Linger's words, he could not help but be shocked. With a thought, he opened the storage bag that he had just obtained and found that there were indeed Blood Soul fruits in the storage bag. There were 3 on one side and 2 on the other, a total of 5 Blood Soul fruit. Including the 3 from Luo Linger, there were a total of 8 Blood Soul fruits. Chapter 26. Now, I don't know. But when I left, no one else found out. I just don't know if they spread the news. Luo Linger shook her head. She was the first to discover the underground palace, and then she was discovered by the people from the Sky Sword Academy. This was also the reason why Luo Ling was being chased by the two martial artists from the Sky Sword Academy. Until now, she didn't know if the two martial artists from the Sky Sword Academy had spread the news. Logically speaking, they wouldn't spread the news. But there are exceptions to everything. Let's go and see. Lin Yi returned the Blood Soul fruit to Luo Linger and said, since the underground palace was discovered, and there might be Blood Soul fruits in the underground palace, he naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity. Luo Linger nodded and replied. Then, Luo Linger swallowed a restore pill to stabilize her injuries. After he was done with everything, he brought Lin Yi and rushed towards the underground palace. Did you use your talisman? While running, Lin Yi observed Luo Linger from time to time, worried that her running would affect the recovery of her injuries. But fortunately, Luo Linger's injuries were not serious, and she could recover with a little rest. I used to. Luo Linger replied. If she had talismans, she wouldn't have had the chance to escape from the two spirit movement realm martial artists. Take these. Lin Yi pondered for a moment. He didn't give them a lot of powerful talismans because he didn't want them to rely on him. Now it seemed that in this new secret territory, without the cultivation of a spirit movement realm martial artist, they wouldn't have the qualifications to protect themselves. Even if it was a spirit movement realm martial artist, they might not be able to return safely. Thinking of this, Lin Yi took out some 3rd-level talismans and 4th-level talismans from the 9-layer space. With these talismans, as long as they didn't encounter a top spirit movement realm martial artist, Luo Linger would have no problem protecting herself. Thank you, young Master Lin. Luo Linger received the talisman from Lin Yi and immediately became excited. With these talismans, as long as his luck wasn't too bad, he would be able to return safely. Even if he encountered a powerful spirit movement mirror, he would still be able to severely injure him. In front of a large mountain, there was a precipice. A stone door appeared on the cliff. The stone door was 10 meters tall and 5 meters wide. However, this stone door was not open. It was unknown what was behind the stone door. The stone door was emitting a mysterious luster. Originally, there was no luster on the stone door, and no one had even discovered it. However, the Sky Sword Academy martial practitioners had rushed over after receiving some information. After carefully examining the cliff, they discovered the location of the key card slot and confirmed that the slot was the entrance. Some martial artists who could not bear it any longer began to attack the precipice. A stone door appeared on the cliff that had been attacked. The stone door emitted a mysterious glow of divine runes. Order Yu Yang to take out the secret key. Don't tell me we're really going to waste time like this? A spirit-channeling realm martial artist from Nanfeng Academy looked at the Sky Sword Academy martial artists and said. No one knew how he got the news from the Sky Sword Academy and spread the news, causing countless martial artists to rush over. Now, under the precipice, the martial artists from the 4 major academies were all present. Moreover, there were still many martial artists rushing over. This place could be said to be one of the most lively places in the secret territory. Xue Tian, go in if you have the ability. If we had the secret key, we would have already gone in. It would have nothing to do with you. Order Yu Yang looked coldly at Nanfeng Academy's Xue Tian and said lightly. He and Xue Tian were both 9th-grade spiritual pulse prodigies from the 4 major academies. Now, their cultivation had reached the 5th stage of the spirit-channeling realm. If they really fought, they would not dare to say that they could defeat each other, let alone kill them. You must be joking. The news came from your Sky Sword Academy. Shenwu College's Li Zipping said coldly. In a new secret realm, there would be new opportunities and opportunities. If it was any other secret realm, it would have been searched countless times already. There wouldn't be many treasures and opportunities left behind. Even if there were, they would be in dangerous places. A new secret territory was different because it was full of unknowns and had not been explored yet. Now that there was a treasure, no one wanted to miss it. Order Yu Yang, the Sky Sword Academy cannot monopolize it. The secret territory has half a year of training time. If this continues, it will not be good for everyone. Azure Rock Academy's Qing Siqing said loudly. In this secret territory, he represented the Azure Rock Academy. For a moment, the people from the three major academies looked at the Sky Sword Academy martial artists. This news came from the Sky Sword Academy, so the secret key was most likely in the hands of the Sky Sword Academy. Although the Sky Sword Academy was the strongest among the four major academies, in front of benefits, the three major academies would definitely not let the Sky Sword Academy monopolize the treasure. Under the precipice, the Sky Sword Academy had nearly 200 people, Shenwu College had more than 100, Azure Rock Academy had more than 100, and Nanfeng Academy had more than 200. The three major academies were enough to crush the Sky Sword Academy. Among these people, most of them were innate. With countless spirit mirror present, innates naturally did not have the qualifications to speak. In other words, innates were cannon fodder. They rushed to the front, but when it came to obtaining benefits, they had to stand aside. To be honest, the secret key is not in the hands of the Sky Sword Academy. The secret key is in the hands of the people from Shenwu College. Ling Yu Yang's expression turned ugly. He realized that the person who sent the message had not appeared until now. At that time, he only gave a location. The person who sent the message said that he was going to snatch the secret key, and that the secret key was in the hands of the martial artists from Shenwu College. The secret key is in the hands of the people from Shenwu College? Are you kidding? How can we believe it? It's in the hands of the people from Shenwu College? Ling Yu Yang, is this true? In whose hands? Since you know that it's in the hands of the people from Shenwu College, is there any reason not to snatch it? Hearing Ling Yu Yang's words, it aroused everyone's suspicion and disbelief. The news was spread by the people from the Sky Sword Academy. Now, Ling Yu Yang said that the secret key was in the hands of the people from Shenwu College. According to the style of Ling Yu Yang and the Sky Sword Academy's martial artists, there was no reason not to snatch it in the secret territory. That secret key is in the hands of a female innate realm student. Ling Yu Yang snorted coldly. He did not get much information. He only knew that there were treasures in this place, and that the Sky Sword Academy's martial artists were chasing after a female student from Shenwu College. This female student was only a small innate realm martial artist. The secret key in the hands of the female student was the news that Ling Yu Yang got. Whoosh whoosh, whoosh whoosh, there were martial artists rushing over from time to time, but they were unable to enter the stone door. This was because to enter the stone door, one needed the secret key to open it. Other than that, no matter how powerful the attack was, it was useless. So many people. I didn't expect those two to spread the news. Among the martial artists rushing over to the cliff, Lin Yi and Luo Ling are also arrived. Seeing the countless martial artists from the four great academies, they were extremely shocked. He really did not expect those two geniuses from the Sky Sword Academy to spread the news. Logically speaking, when encountering a treasure, the fewer people who knew about it, the better. They would not easily spread the news to others. Young Master Lin. That card slot is the location of the secret key. I went inside before. As long as I put the secret key in, the stone door will open. After entering the stone door, there is a 1,000-meter-long passage that extends underground. At the end of the passage is an independent small world. The Blood Soul fruit was obtained from there. At that time, I discovered that the secret key should be able to open the mechanism array inside. But by the time I discovered it, the people from the Sky Sword Academy had also discovered me. I did not have the chance or time to test it out. Luo Ling said in a low voice. She had already given the secret key to Lin Yi from the beginning. She knew that with her cultivation and strength, she would not be able to keep the secret key. Only Lin Yi had a chance. The stone door will naturally open. But we have to find a way to shake off the others and strive to be the first to enter the innermost part. When the time comes, don't leave my side. If necessary, use the talisman. Lin Yi nodded. As he spoke, he walked towards the cliff. When he reached the bottom of the cliff, he arrived at the side of the martial artists from the Xingwu College. He did not know any of these martial artists from the Xingwu College. However, there were some Xiantian and spirit-channeling realm martial artists who knew Lin Yi. However, no one greeted him. Mixed in with the crowd from the Xingwu College, Lin Yi chose a place near the stone door to sit cross-legged and began to rest. He restored his mental energy to its peak state and entered the stone door at its peak state. The other martial artists were all discussing spiritedly, waiting for the person with the secret key to appear. Time passed by minute. After half an hour, Lin Ye's cultivation and strength had recovered to its peak state. He stood up and walked towards the stone door. No one noticed his movements at all. This was because the martial artists present had all looked at the stone door and tried to find a way to open it. The martial artists present naturally did not believe that the person with the secret key was Lin Yi. Behind Lin Yi, Luoling followed closely. Lin Yi learned from Luoling that the blood jade's secret key had always been on the card slot of the stone door. Only then did Luoling activate the secret key to enter the underground palace behind the stone door. Rumble rumble. Just as all the martial artists were discussing, a loud sound erupted from the stone door on the cliff. A strong light was emitted from the stone door. This movement caused all the martial artists to look over in shock. When they saw the situation of the stone door on the cliff, countless people were shocked and excited. They saw a young man holding a blood jade-like secret key in his hand and opening the stone door. The stone door was slowly opening. "Let's go!" Lin Yi opened the stone door. Just as a small crack appeared on the stone door, he shouted in a low voice. He held the secret key in one hand and Luoling in the other, and flashed through the stone door. Seeing Lin Yi and Luoling enter the stone door, the martial artists present reacted. For a time, countless martial artists rushed towards the stone door, wanting to enter the stone door and snatch the treasure as soon as possible. However, the stone door was not completely open. If they wanted to enter, they had to enter one by one. The martial artists of the 4 colleges present were not willing to let others enter first. This caused everyone to block the stone door. No martial artist had expected this scene. Rumble rumble. After a full 10 seconds, the stone door was completely open. Chapter 27. Luoling had been in there once before. Although she was not familiar with it, she was still familiar with it. The two of them entered the passage and ran towards the end of the passage as fast as they could. "Young Master Lin, do we need to look for the blood soul fruit?" Luoling asked softly as they ran. Her voice trembled slightly. Lin Yi held her hand tightly. In the dim passage, Lin Yi could not see the blush on Luoling's face. "No need. Let's go straight in. I hope we can get rid of these people," Lin Yi said without hesitation. The blood soul fruit was indeed precious, but he was more concerned about the treasures in the underground palace. Moreover, the blood soul fruit outside the underground palace was limited. With countless warriors fighting for it, he would not be able to gain the slightest advantage. "Okay." Luoling nodded gently in response. As the two of them spoke, they had already reached the end of the passage. After leaving the passage, Luoling led Lin Yi towards a thicket of trees. Lin Yi saw that these trees were all branches of the blood soul fruit. He even saw a blood soul fruit hanging on a branch. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Just as Lin Yi and Luoling entered the thicket, a gust of wind sounded. Countless warriors had also arrived at the end of the passage. However, Lin Yi and Luoling had already disappeared from the sight of all the warriors. If they wanted to find Lin Yi and Luo Ling they could only search in the thicket. Moreover, as the number of people increased, it was impossible to know who had the key. Young Master Lin, it's here. The thicket was not large, at most 1 li in size. Luo Ling led Lin Yi to a corner. There was a small altar in the corner. The altar was engraved with runes, and the convergence point of the countless runes was the location of the key. It's a teleportation array. A short distance teleportation array. Lin Yi glanced around and recognized that this altar was a transmission array. The last time he was in the wilderness, he had entered an ancient sect that had been buried. He had used this altar's transmission array to descend. This altar was not much different from the previous one. Without any hesitation, he placed the key at the center of the altar. Boom! With a muffled sound, a beam of light shot out from the altar. The appearance of the light excited countless warriors who were searching for the blood-soul fruit in the thicket. This was because the light was like a bright lamp in the dark night. It meant that the person who held the key was there and was activating the mechanism array. Immediately, countless warriors rushed toward the light. Enter. Lin Yi didn't know how long this teleportation array could last. However, he didn't dare to hesitate at all, because he had already seen countless warriors rushing towards him. If he was any slower, he would definitely be pushed off the altar by the other warriors. Whoosh! Luo Ling and Lin Yi disappeared in the light of the altar. When they reappeared, there was an ancient city in front of them. The ancient city exuded an ancient aura, and the spiritual qi was extremely dense. The spiritual qi in the air was almost tangible, just like a fog. Lin Yi and Luo Ling were surprised by this situation. They didn't expect that there would be an ancient city under this underground palace. However, the two of them didn't feel any life in this ancient city. It was like a dead city. They didn't know how big the ancient city was, but they were in it. Let's leave here first. The others have also entered. Lin Yi pulled Luo Ling and chose a direction. They quickly ran away from the place where they had just landed, so as to avoid encountering other warriors. Although he wasn't afraid of those warriors, it would be troublesome. After all, he had the key to the underground palace in his hand. He would definitely be the target of murder and robbery. The two of them kept running. After an hour, the two of them were 200 miles away from the place where they had just appeared. With such a long distance and the size of the ancient city, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack for other warriors to find them. I didn't expect that there would be an ancient city here. I wonder what city this is. Luo Ling muttered to herself during the break. She looked at Lin Yi with her beautiful eyes, and her eyes were gentle. Seeing this, Lin Yi quickly shifted his gaze. There is no one in this ancient city. However, it is suitable for cultivation. Let's look around slowly and see if we can find anything, Lin Yi said. Although this was an ancient city without any life, with such dense spiritual qi, there should be treasures of heaven and earth, because dense spiritual qi could give birth to treasures of heaven and earth. Besides, this was not a dead city, and there were flowers and trees. Taking a step back, even if they did not find any treasures of heaven and earth or other resources, it would be good to cultivate in this place for a few months. With such dense spiritual qi, 1 day of cultivation was equivalent to 6 or 7 days of cultivation outside. Okay. Luo Ling nodded obediently. Next, after the two of them rested, they searched in the ancient city. Primordial spirit fruit. It's the primordial spirit fruit. A treasure that can directly raise a primordial warrior's realm. In the ancient city, Luo Ling was extremely excited. In front of her was a tall tree. The tree was lush with green leaves and was full of spiritual qi. Hidden in the tree were fist-sized fruits, green and exuding pure spiritual qi. Seeing these fruits, Luo Ling recognized that they were the legendary primordial spirit fruit. This was a treasure that could raise a primordial warrior's cultivation. It is indeed the primordial spirit fruit. However, each primordial warrior can only use 3. Lin Yi was also very happy. Previously, he got the Blood Soul Fruit, a treasure that could raise spiritual sense. Now, he encountered the Primordial Spirit Fruit that could raise a warrior's cultivation. This secret realm was indeed a treasure house. Soon, Lin Yi and Luo Ling picked all the Primordial Spirit Fruit. There were a total of 37 Primordial Spirit Fruit. Blood Soul Fruit, 300-year-old Blood Soul Fruit. Lin Ye's voice had a trace of excitement. This time, the two of them got 19 300-year-old Blood Soul Fruit. Big Dipper Flower, it's the Big Dipper Flower. It is said that this can raise the realm of a Big Dipper realm expert, and the effect is the same as the Primordial Spirit Fruit. Time passed day by day. Lin Yi and Luo Ling gained a lot in the ancient city. They got a lot of treasures of heaven and earth, all of which could raise a warrior's cultivation strength or spiritual sense master's spiritual sense. Moreover, the two of them also got a lot of spiritual weapons, as well as some cultivation methods and martial skills. Unknowingly, 3 months had passed. In other words, there were only 3 months left before they left the secret realm. At this time, Lin Yi used the Primordial Spirit Fruit and successfully raised 3 levels to the peak of Xiantian LV8, only 1 step away from LV9. Moreover, after using the Blood Soul Fruit, his spiritual sense reached level 25. Luo Ling's cultivation also reached Xiantian LV8. Of course, this was also the power of the Primordial Spirit Fruit. During the day, the two of them searched for treasures in the ancient city. At night, the two of them looked for palaces and rested and cultivated separately. Luo Ling cultivated outside, while Lin Yi entered the ninefold space. On this day, Lin Yi exclaimed, "What's wrong?" Hearing Lin Yi's exclamation, Luo Ling could not help but feel nervous, thinking that they had encountered danger. She looked around and found nothing unusual. Then, she looked up at Lin Yi. "Look! It seems that something is attracting it." Lin Yi took out the Blood Jade Key and said. At this moment, the Blood Jade Key was emitting traces of blood-red light. It was obvious that the Blood Jade Key had sensed something, because normally, the Blood Jade Key would not react at all. In other words, the Blood Jade Key would not emit light on its own. Is there some treasure? Luo Ling was surprised and delighted when she saw the changes on the Blood Jade Key. If there was a treasure attracting the Blood Jade Key, it would be a good thing. If there were any changes, it would definitely be a disaster. Let's see. Lin Yi held the Blood Jade Key and spread out his spiritual sense. He followed the direction of the Blood Jade Key. Luo Ling followed closely beside Lin Yi, looking around with her beautiful eyes. Based on the intensity of the light emitted by the Blood Jade Key, she could tell that the place attracting the Blood Jade Key was not far away. This made her heart beat faster. In 2 hours, the two of them had walked 100 miles. Dragon God Palace. There was a huge palace with the words, Dragon God Palace, engraved on it. In front of the 3 words, Lin Yi felt a strong pressure that almost made him lie down. Sweat kept dripping down his cheeks. Gradually, the 3 words began to change in Lin Yi's eyes. Hiss with a slight sound, Lin Yi was pulled away by a magical force. At the same time, Luo Ling who was beside him, was also pulled away by a magical force and disappeared. When the two of them reappeared, they were already in a hall. There was nothing in the hall. However, there was a space-time gate. "Mr. Lin, do you want to go in?" Looking at the space-time gate, Luo Ling had no idea and asked Lin Yi. "Go in." Lin Yi pondered for a moment and answered. As he spoke, he walked towards the space-time gate. He stepped into the space-time gate and disappeared. Seeing Lin Yi enter the space-time gate, Luo Ling did not hesitate and also walked towards the space-time gate. Bang, however, the moment Luo Ling got close to the space-time gate, the space-time gate emitted a strong force and directly bounced Luo Ling away. This sudden change caught Luo Ling off guard. Her delicate body was sent flying and fell heavily on the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. What's going on? Luo Ling looked at the space-time gate in confusion. She wanted to ask Lin Yi, but Lin Yi had already disappeared into the space-time gate. For a moment, Luo Ling was nervous and afraid. Even if she was a Xiantian warrior, she was still a young girl. She did not know what to do when she was alone in this hall. Behind the space-time gate, Lin Yi appeared in a palace of 7-colored light. In the palace there was a magical light shield, and 3 items were floating. The 3 items were rotating gently, giving off a mysterious feeling. Chapter 28. Why didn't Ling come in? Lin Yi looked away from the 3 items and realized that Luo Ling didn't follow him in. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. However, at this moment, he had no way to leave even if he wanted to. He didn't know how to leave this place at all. After pondering for a moment, he looked at the blood jade key in his hand. He could enter with the blood jade key, but Luo Ling didn't have the key. This should be the reason why she couldn't enter. He looked at the 3 items in the array again. He was curious, but he didn't dare to act rashly. With a move of his divine telekinesis, the powerful level 25 divine telekinesis dragged the blood jade key and slowly approached the array. Lin Yi stared at the blood jade key and the array, paying attention to the changes in the array. Hiss hiss, at a distance of 10 meters, the blood jade key quickly approached the array. When the blood jade key got close to the array, it let out a hissing sound. The light shield quickly melted like the spring sun melting the winter snow. After a few breaths of time, the light shield of the array disappeared. However, the 3 items were still floating and spinning in the air. Roar! At the moment when the array completely melted, an unparalleled pressure crushed down and shrouded Lin Yi. Lin Yi almost knelt down. All the bones in his body felt like they were about to fall apart. This terrifying pressure made Lin Yi's mind tremble. He couldn't even summon the slightest consciousness to resist. This feeling was too powerless. In his line of sight, a golden divine dragon was hovering in front of him. However, this golden divine dragon's shadow was not real. However, the terrifying pressure was emitted from this golden divine dragon's shadow. Human Jr. The golden divine dragon spoke in human language and examined Lin Yi with its dragon eyes. Senior Divine Dragon. Lin Yi looked at the golden divine dragon and his mind trembled. Even if he was a fool, he knew that this golden divine dragon wasn't ordinary. It should have already transcended. Such an existence, even if it was just a shadow, could make him disappear with a thought. He didn't dare to be disrespectful and respectfully addressed the golden divine dragon as senior. Within a month. If you can't control one of them, you will disappear. The golden divine dragon ignored Lin Yi and continued to speak in human language. Its domineering dragon might crush this space. In this place, it was the absolute ruler. His voice was wooden and emotionless. As it spoke, it looked at the 3 items floating in the air. As his voice fell, the golden dragon's shadow disappeared. It had appeared out of thin air, and now it had disappeared into thin air. The real dragon's head could be seen, but its tail could not be seen. It came and went without a trace. A month? Master, what? Lin Yi mumbled to himself when he saw the golden divine dragon disappear. However, the tyrannical dragon might in the air did not weaken. It also did not disappear along with the golden divine dragon image. At this moment, when Xiao Chun thought of the 1-month time limit, he did not dare to delay. He walked towards the 3 items step by step. Now, he no longer had the slightest scruple. This was because his life was now in someone else's hands. If he was wary of the 3 items, he might be wiped out by the golden divine dragon's shadow. He stretched out his hand and grabbed one of the golden pages. Boom! The moment his finger touched the golden page, there was a loud bang in his mind. It was as if a bolt of lightning had exploded, causing Lin Yi to bleed from his 7 orifices. His body was on the verge of collapse. However, there was a huge amount of information coming from the golden page. The huge amount of information made his mind dizzy. For a moment, he was unable to completely summarize the information. Fortunately, he had a powerful spiritual sense, which was countless times stronger than ordinary martial artists. Otherwise, just this amount of information was enough to turn him into an idiot. Divine Dragon 9 transformations. After a full quarter of an hour, Lin Yi finally summarized the huge amount of information. When he summarized the information, he finally understood that the information on this golden page was a domineering cultivation method. Body tempering cultivation method, a powerful physique. However, he did not know the level of this body tempering cultivation method. Divine Dragon 9 transformations, 5 transformations to become a saint, 9 transformations to become a god. 9 transformations, 1 transformation to a heaven, 1 transformation to a world. Lin Yi did not dare to delay at all. He quickly sat down cross-legged and began to comprehend and cultivate the Divine Dragon 9 transformations. The profoundness of the Divine Dragon 9 transformations shocked him. He discovered that the profoundness of the Divine Dragon 9 transformations was second only to his 3,000 heavenly Daos. Time passed by minute. Unknowingly, a day had passed. Lin Yi shook his head helplessly. It was too difficult to cultivate. He couldn't even get started, let alone master it. He stood up and looked at the other golden page and an incomplete rune. Without hesitation, he reached out to grab the golden page. Just like before, a huge amount of information surged into his mind. Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal. After a quarter of an hour, Lin Yi had also completely summarized the information. Knowing the information was also a type of cultivation technique. To be precise, it was a type of martial skill. He sat down cross-legged and began to comprehend and cultivate. This time, in less than a moment, Lin Yi stopped comprehending and cultivating. This was because he discovered that the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal was not suitable for him to cultivate at all. Or at least, it was not something that he could cultivate or touch right now. He shook his head helplessly and stared at the incomplete rune. He reached out to grab the rune. Bang puff! Just as he touched the incomplete rune, Lin Yi was sent flying by a terrifying force. His body fiercely fell to the ground, and he felt an intense pain in his chest, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The incomplete rune was like a taboo that did not allow him to touch it at all. I'd better comprehend and cultivate the 9 transformations, Divine Dragon. A bitter smile appeared on Lin Yi's face. A month's time, and a day had already passed. It was impossible for the rune and the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal to succeed. His only hope was still on the Divine Dragon 9 transformations. This time, he could only return to the Divine Dragon 9 transformations that he had chosen at the beginning. Otherwise, he could only be erased by the Golden Divine Dragon. Could young Master Lin be in danger? In the hall, Luo Linger looked at the space-time gate and said in a daze. She was extremely worried, but at the same time, she felt a trace of fear and nervousness. As time passed, Luo Linger also sat cross-legged and began to cultivate in the hall, waiting for Lin Yi's return. Only when Lin Yi returned could she leave the hall. Fortunately, she still had countless spirit fruits and rations in her storage bag, so she wouldn't starve to death. In the ancient city of the underground palace, there were already hundreds and thousands of martial artists. Countless martial artists were searching for heavenly treasures and cultivation resources in this ancient city. Time passed day by day. On the street, a petite figure was carefully running. Biluo fruit, the treasure of the spirit mirror. Luo Xing'er came in front of a biluo tree. Looking at the fruit on the biluo tree, her beautiful face revealed excitement. It would be strange if she wasn't excited to encounter such a heavenly treasure. Looking around to make sure there were no other creatures or humans, she quickly reached out to pick the biluo fruit and put it in her storage bag. After collecting the biluo fruit, she quietly left, not daring to stay. I wonder how Linger and brother-in-law are doing? Luo Xing'er was not worried about Lin Yi at all, because she knew that Lin Yi was very strong. Even if he was only in the Xiantian realm, Lin Yi gave her the feeling that he could escape unscathed if he encountered the spirit mirror. What worried him was Luo Linger. With Luo Linger's cultivation, she could die at any time in the secret territory. The new disciples of the 4 great academies were training in the secret territory. At the entrance, some experts of the 4 great academies were guarding, waiting for the disciples to return. In Yunshui City there was a piece of news. This news immediately shook Yunshui City. The originally calm Yunshui City was now in an uproar. Countless warriors were discussing the number 1 genius of the Moon Kingdom, Huangfu Jinglei. In half a year, he will challenge all the geniuses of the 4 great academies of the Yunshui Kingdom. When this news spread, all the warriors in Yunshui City were excited. Even the royal family was paying attention to this news. The geniuses of the 4 great academies were even more eager to fight. However, when they thought of the strength of the number 1 genius of the Moon Kingdom, Huangfu Jinglei, they felt their hearts tremble. They did not have the slightest confidence in defeating Huangfu Jinglei. They did not even have the courage to accept the challenge. Huangfu Jinglei, born with a thunder body, with a peerless emperor body, even if he encountered an ordinary saint body, he could still fight. The 23-year-old Huangfu Jinglei had already reached the 9th level of the spirit mirror. He was invincible in the spirit mirror. He was definitely a genius. Everywhere he went, he was like the moon surrounded by stars. Moreover, his identity was even more frightening. The crown prince of the Moon Kingdom, the number 1 genius. Such an identity represented the future of the kingdom. It was believed that in a few years, Huangfu Jinglei would be able to control the Moon Kingdom. Using the resources of a kingdom to cultivate a super genius was terrifying. Huangfu Jinglei is challenging geniuses with emperor bodies. In the 4 great academies, there are many geniuses with emperor bodies in the spirit mirror. However, compared to Huangfu Jinglei, there is still a big gap. This is completely suppressing the Yunshui Kingdom. Among the geniuses with emperor bodies in the Yunshui Kingdom, there are 2 goddesses. They are Luo Bingyue and Su Ningyan. I think Huangfu Jinglei is targeting these 2. The Moon Kingdom is ranked in the top 5 among the 36 kingdoms in the Sky Sea realm. If Huangfu Jinglei becomes the king of the Moon Kingdom, he will definitely attack the Yunshui Kingdom and even annex the Yunshui Kingdom. It's a pity that the Yunshui Kingdom is not strong enough. Otherwise, we would not be suppressed by the Moon Kingdom. In the Yunshui City, from the super strong to the ordinary people, everyone was talking about Huangfu Jinglei. It seemed like a grand event, but to the warriors of the Yunshui Kingdom, it was definitely not a good thing. At most, the geniuses of the Yunshui Kingdom would become Huangfu Jinglei's stepping stones, or even a disgrace. Some of the higher-ups in the royal family were also helpless. Whether it was in terms of national strength, resources, geniuses, or strong warriors, the Yunshui Kingdom could not compare to the Moon Kingdom. The difference between the 2 countries was huge. They were not even on the same level. In the past few years, the Moon Kingdom and its forces had been suppressing the Yunshui Kingdom. Almost every time the 4 academies recruited disciples, there would be a genius from the Moon Kingdom challenging the 4 academies. Every time, the 4 academies would lose. Chapter 29. The 9 Transformations of the Divine Dragon. 1 transformation was a layer of heaven, 1 transformation was a world. According to the records of the Divine Dragon 9 transformations, if one could evolve the Divine Dragon 9 transformations to the extreme, they would be immortal and indestructible. However, cultivating the divine dragon 9 transformations was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. It was even more difficult than ascending to the heavens. Great wisdom, great perseverance, great opportunity, great luck, and great luck. None of these could be missing. The Divine Dragon 9 transformations had a total of 9 levels, also known as the 9 transformations. Earth Dragon Transformation, Flood Dragon Transformation, True Dragon Transformation, Flying Dragon Transformation, Azure Dragon Transformation, Heavenly Dragon Transformation, Holy Dragon Transformation, and Divine Dragon Transformation. The 7-colored palace was filled with endless true dragon chi. Lin Yi sat cross-legged and seriously comprehended the Divine Dragon 9 transformations. At this moment, he was already clear on the power and mysteriousness of the Divine Dragon 9 transformations, and was even more clear on the profoundness of the Divine Dragon 9 transformations. However, if he did not cultivate it, he would be erased by the golden Divine Dragon's shadow. The Divine Dragon 9 transformations was the main, and the 3,000 heavenly Daos were auxiliary. Relying on his extraordinary thinking and analytical ability, he cultivated the Divine Dragon 9 transformations with his unparalleled perception. Time passed day by day. Finally, on the 13th day, Lin Yi finally comprehended the first transformation of the Divine Dragon 9 transformations. After comprehending it, he began to cultivate, and on the 21st day, he successfully cultivated the first transformation of the Divine Dragon 9 transformations. Earth Dragon Transformation, Success! Suddenly, Lin Ye's figure flashed like a powerful Earth Dragon. The air was constantly distorted and the space was torn apart. Rumble rumble. Lin Ye's agile figure and domineering power caused sonic booms to erupt in the air. Adding on the double damage from the invincible attack, the Earth Dragon Transformation's power was even more terrifying. Lin Yi could feel that with the power of the Earth Dragon Transformation and the double damage from the invincible attack, he could definitely kill someone of the same level with a single punch. Defense, it had the defense of an Earth Dragon. Roar. With a roar, his 5 fingers formed a claw. With a swipe of his claw, it was as if space itself was being torn apart. Lin Ye's figure finally stopped. Unknowingly, the Golden Dragon's shadow had appeared in front of Lin Yi. At this moment, Lin Yi was immune to the dragon's might of the Golden Dragon's shadow. He didn't want to be oppressed like before. This was to be expected. After all, he had been comprehending and cultivating in the endless domineering draconic might all this time. Senior Shenlong. Lin Yi bowed to the Golden Divine Dragon. He believed that the Golden Divine Dragon had already seen the matter of him cultivating the Divine Dragon 9 transformations. Come back here when you master the Divine Dragon's 5 transformations. Repair the Divine Dragon Talisman as soon as possible and enter the Divine Dragon Palace. Go! The Golden Divine Dragon's voice was emotionless as it stared at Lin Yi. After he finished speaking, the 2 golden pages and the incomplete rune floating in the air floated towards Lin Yi. At the same time, Lin Ye's body was swept up by a mysterious force and was quickly thrown into the air. Behind him, there was nothing at first, but at this moment, a space-time door appeared. Just as he grabbed the 2 golden pages and the incomplete rune, Lin Ye's body had already entered the space-time gate. Thump thump thump, Lin Yi appeared on the other side of the space-time gate. However, his body staggered a few steps back before he could stabilize his body. Young Master Lin. A clear and sweet voice sounded in his ears. Hearing this voice, Lin Yi knew that it was Luo Linger. He turned around and looked at Luo Linger, only to see Luo Linger looking at him in surprise. Linger. Lin Yi glanced at Luo Linger and called out. He knew that Luo Linger was unable to enter the Rainbow Palace because she did not have the Blood Jade Key. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel guilty. After all, the Blood Jade Key was obtained by Luo Linger. Now, he had obtained a great opportunity, while Luo Linger was blocked outside the Rainbow Palace. Young Master Lin, what did you get? Luo Linger looked at the golden pages and incomplete rune in Lin Ye's hand and asked curiously. This was not because she wanted Lin Ye's treasures, but purely out of curiosity. After all, Lin Yi might have entered the center of the underground palace. A body refining cultivation method. It's a type of martial skill. An incomplete rune. Lin Yi briefly explained the situation in the Rainbow Palace. He did not want to hide anything from Luo Linger, otherwise, it would leave an inner demon in his heart. After all, he felt that he had taken advantage of Luo Linger. As he spoke, he handed the 2 golden pages and the incomplete rune to Luo Linger. Luo Linger took the golden pages and the incomplete rune, glanced at them briefly, and finally returned them to Lin Yi. It seems that young Master Lin only obtained a qualification. The real treasure is in that divine dragon hall. Body refining cultivation methods are not suitable for me. I will try to cultivate the heavenly phoenix divine seal. Who knows, I might be able to cultivate it. Luo Linger giggled and said. She was a smart person. Naturally, she could see some problems from Lin Ye's encounter in the Rainbow Palace. In other words, Lin Yi did not obtain the real treasure, but only a qualification, an opportunity to enter the Divine Dragon Hall. However, it was not that easy to enter the Divine Dragon Hall. Take it and comprehend it. Let Xing and the others try. Lin Yi handed the golden pages of the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal to Luo Linger. Okay. Luo Linger nodded in agreement. Then, the 2 left the hall. In less than 15 minutes, they appeared outside the Divine Dragon Hall. They did not expect to come out of the Divine Dragon Hall after spending almost a month in there. They felt like they had been reborn. After leaving, the 2 of them spread out and headed into the distance. The ancient city was just a place in the Mystery Land. In the Mystery Land, there were countless opportunities and dangers. Nearly 40,000 martial artists from the 4 academies entered the Mystery Land. It was like throwing a handful of sand into the sea. Some obtained opportunities, some became food for the demonic beasts, and some died from unknown dangers. As time passed, nearly 1/3 of the martial artists who entered the Mystery Land died. However, those who survived had basically gained a lot. They had either improved their cultivation, obtained treasures of heaven and earth, obtained powerful martial skills and cultivation methods, or obtained spiritual weapons. Messages were passed on to the martial artists in the Mystery Land. Hurry, go to Sky Capital Peak as fast as you can. An incredible treasure has appeared in Sky Capital Peak. This is the location of Sky Capital Peak. It is said that a heaven-class cultivation method and powerful spiritual weapons have appeared there. There is also a spiritual herb garden. Countless experts have already rushed there. Someone has obtained a level 9 spiritual weapon there. Sky Sword Academy's Wei Li obtained a heaven-class martial technique. Shenwu College's Li Zipping obtained a king-level demonic beast's egg. For a time, the Mystery Land became lively. Although the Mystery Land was big, the attraction of the treasures was unparalleled. Countless experts rushed to Sky Capital Peak. Sky Capital Peak, no one knew where it was. Because this was a new Mystery Land, some places inside had not been named. However, someone in the Mystery Land made a simple map and marked the location of Sky Capital Peak. In this way, the experts who were closer to Sky Capital Peak directly rushed to Sky Capital Peak to snatch the treasures there. The news was only passed on among the same sect. Shenwu College's martial artists, as long as they were within 1,000 miles, they would receive the news on their identity crystal. 8th level of Spirit Mirror, hee. Nanfeng Academy's Xue Tian's face revealed an excited expression. After being in the secret territory for 3 months, he had already obtained many precious treasures, which allowed his cultivation to rise to the 8th level of the spirit channeling realm. With his talent and strength, he was definitely one of the strongest in this secret territory. One must know that the martial artists who entered the secret territory were limited to the 5th stage of the spirit maneuvering realm. Martial artists above the 5th stage were unable to enter the secret territory. Once a martial artist reached the spirit maneuvering realm, it was not a matter of a day or two, but rather years. Therefore, for him to rise 3 levels in 3 months in the Mystery Land, it was definitely a miracle. Even the geniuses who were at the same level as him would be left far behind. With this level 9 spiritual weapon, even a 7th or 8th level of spirit mirror would have to suffer. Green Rock Academy's Long Feiyun looked at the long saber in his hand. He cultivated the way of the saber, and his martial techniques were mainly based on the saber. This time, he obtained a level 9 spirit weapon from the secret territory. For his current cultivation, it was like adding wings to a tiger. Even if he faced a martial artist at the 7th or 8th level of the spirit realm, he was confident that he could defeat them. Biluo fruit is really magical. A Biluo fruit directly raised me from the peak of the 5th level to the peak of the 6th level. There is still a Biluo fruit left. It should be able to raise me to the peak of the 7th level of Spirit Mirror. However, it is best if I don't use it. I will save it for when I reach the peak of the 8th level. Sky Sword Academy's Ling Yuyang looked at the fruit in his hand with a smile on his face. After reaching the Spirit Mirror, it was very difficult to improve one's cultivation. Even for a genius like him, with countless resources to cultivate, it would still take a few months to raise a level. The Biluo fruit broke the rules and directly raised the Spirit Mirror by 1 level. Sky Capital Peak? Sky Capital Peak? In the ancient city, Lin Yi and Luo Ling spoke at the same time. Their faces revealed a trace of doubt. On their crystal chips there was a gathering message. This gathering message was naturally sent by the students of Shengwu College. Everyone within 1,000 miles could receive the message. They received the message, which meant that this place was 1,000 miles away from them. The distance of 1,000 miles for the two of them would only take 4 to 6 hours. There are also map coordinates. Young Master Lin, should we go? Luo Ling looked at the information on her crystal chip and then looked at Lin Yi. Go, of course we will go. But not now. Lin Yi pondered for a moment and replied. Since a treasure appeared, and it was within 1,000 miles, he naturally would not miss it. However, he did not rush over now because he had other plans. Luo Ling looked at Lin Yi in confusion. She did not know what Lin Yi was planning. Obviously, a treasure appeared, so why didn't he go now? If he went late, the treasure might be snatched away by other strong cultivators. We received the news, so other strong cultivators must have received the news too. The more the news spreads, the more strong cultivators will rush to the Sky Capital Peak. The real treasure will appear later. At this moment, there are killings everywhere in the Sky Capital Peak. Killing people to snatch treasures is not the real treasure. We won't get any benefits if we go now. Instead of this, we might as well look for resources here. It's much safer than the Sky Capital Peak. Lin Yi smiled. In his view, the treasures in the Sky Capital Peak might not be as good as those in the ancient city. Instead of taking risks, it was better to look for treasures in the ancient city safely. However, he had to go to the Sky Capital Peak. First, Luo Ling might be in the Sky Capital Peak. Chapter 30. After listening to Lin Ye's words, Luo Ling agreed. Next, Lin Yi and Luo Ling ran around the ancient city in search of heaven and earth treasures. During the day, Lin Yi cultivated the thunderclap sword art and shadow breeze. At night, Lin Yi entered the ninefold space to cultivate the Divine Dragon 9 transformations and Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal. He also cultivated the 3,000 Heavenly Tao, Invincible Attack and Absolute Defense. Time passed by day. A month later, Lin Yi and Luo Ling left the ancient city and appeared outside the underground palace. Whoosh 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 the two figures flashed and quickly headed towards the sky capital peak. Along the way, they met other strong cultivators and also fellow disciples of Shengwu College. When they met fellow disciples, the two naturally formed a group. This way, they would not be killed by the strong cultivators of other colleges. Junior Sister Luo, don't get separated when the time comes. Follow me and I'll keep you safe. Keep your eyes open, lest you die in the sky capital peak. Along the way, Dong Jianqing had a high and mighty look. When he talked to Luo Linger, he acted as if he was number one in the world. When he talked to Lin Yi, he glanced at him contemptuously. He did not put a pre-celestial realm cultivator in his eyes at all. The other Shengwu College students could see that this senior brother Dong Jianqing had taken a fancy to Luo Ling. They all knew that senior brother Dong was pretending, but no one said anything. After all, Dong Jianqing was already at the 5th level of the spirit formation realm. His strength was not something they could compare to. Thank you for your reminder, senior brother Dong. Lin Yi smiled and replied. His tone was light and carefree, without the slightest care. As long as he was willing, in this secret realm, no one could do anything to him. Sister Luo, I wonder what is your relationship with junior sister Luo Bingyue? When Dong Jianqing saw Lin Ye's appearance, he was slightly angry in his heart. However, he had to pretend to be magnanimous and act like a senior brother. He didn't want to bicker with Lin Yi. In other words, he had to show that he didn't put a mere Xiantian in his eyes. He no longer paid any attention to Lin Yi and focused all his attention on Luo Ling. Senior Dong, Luo Bingyue is my cousin, Luo Ling said with a smile. Naturally, she could tell that this senior brother Dong was trying to curry favor with her. However, she didn't put this senior brother Dong in her eyes at all. To put it nicely, he was a genius. To put it bluntly, he was just an idiot. However, there was no need for her to offend this senior brother Dong. So you are junior sister Luo Bingyue's cousin. In the future, don't hang out with people with ulterior motives. When senior brother Dong heard about the relationship between Luo Linger and Luo Bingyue, his eyes suddenly lit up. When he accidentally saw Lin Yi standing beside Luo Linger, he couldn't help but frown. Luo Bingyue, he didn't dare to think about it. However, if he could get his hands on Luo Linger with the relationship between Luo Linger and Luo Bingyue, he would have a backer in Shengwu College in the future. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel excited. I don't understand what senior brother Dong is saying. Hearing Dong Jianqing's words, Luo Linger was surprised. She naturally knew that the person Dong Jianqing was talking about was Lin Yi. He was telling her not to hang out with Lin Yi and treat Lin Yi as someone with ulterior motives. Immediately, Luo Linger felt unhappy. What's his name? He should be a disciple who entered the college this year. Dong Jianqing stopped running and asked Luo Linger. He looked at Lin Yi with a scrutinizing attitude. Senior brother Dong. His name is Lin Yi. Luo Linger answered with a smile on her beautiful little face. The smile of a beauty was devastatingly beautiful. Dong Jianqing was almost stunned. Lin Yi, remember your identity. Cultivate well. Don't think about taking shortcuts. Dong Jianqing didn't even look at Lin Yi as he lectured Lin Yi. At this moment, he had the attitude of a senior brother. During the time when the college was recruiting new students, Dong Jianqing had been cultivating in seclusion. He didn't know anything about Luo Bingyue and Lin Yi. Naturally, he didn't know who Lin Yi was. Then senior brother Dong, tell me, what is my identity? Lin Yi replied with an "oh" and looked at Dong Jianqing with a faint smile. Identity? What identity? The identity of an ordinary college disciple? Humph, are you talking back to your senior brother? In Shengwu College, etiquette is the most important. Dong Jianqing put his hands behind his back and his eyes became cold. He didn't expect that a little Xiantian martial artist would dare to talk back to him. This was provoking him. Challenging his authority in front of so many martial artists of Shengwu College was intolerable. At this time, dozens of Shengwu College students stopped. Some people who knew Lin Yi were waiting to watch a good show. Those who didn't know Lin Yi looked at Lin Yi with gloating eyes. Remember your identity. At the same time, you have to thank your identity. If you weren't a student of Shengwu College, you would be a dead man now. Just a little bit of cultivation and you're floating. I really admire you, Lin Yi said lightly. His tone was light and gentle. It seemed peaceful, but it carried a tone of teaching. The fifth layer of the spirit-driving realm was indeed a strong martial artist, but that was only in front of Enchantment. In the spirit-driving realm, the fifth layer was nothing. In terms of martial arts, the spirit-driving realm was just a beginner. It was far from being a strong martial artist. I won't kill you. But a lesson is unavoidable. Dong Jianqing's face became ugly. He was provoked and humiliated by an Xiantian martial artist. If he didn't teach Lin Yi a lesson, he would become the joke of countless strong martial artists. At that time, how could he face other martial artists? If he was alone, he would have already killed Lin Yi. Now, there were many martial artists of Shengwu College watching. More importantly, he didn't want to lose his demeanor in front of Luo Linger. While speaking, he mobilized the cultivation of the spirit-driving realm and was about to teach Lin Yi a lesson. But before he could make a move, a talisman pattern appeared in Lin Yi's hand. The talisman pattern burst out with a terrifying aura. Suddenly, a huge palm print pressed down on Dong Jianqing. The air was constantly distorted. The space was trembling. All the martial artists of Shengwu College were pressed down by this palm print. They couldn't move at all. Their faces were full of horror and disbelief. Boom! With a loud explosion, all the shocked and sluggish martial artists of Shengwu College came to their senses. That overbearing palm print crushed Dong Jianqing's body. Puchi Dong Jianqing spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was like a kite with a short string. Finally, he fell to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. Trash like you! You're not worthy for me to make a move, Lin Yi said lightly. From the beginning to the end, Lin Yi looked calm, as if killing Dong Jianqing had nothing to do with him. After saying that, his figure flashed and ran away. Luo Linger followed closely behind Lin Yi. She was not surprised that Lin Yi injured Dong Jianqing. Even the expression on her face did not change. In her eyes, Lin Yi injuring Dong Jianqing was a reasonable thing. Only a few of the martial artists present had heard of Lin Yi. As for the others, they didn't know Lin Yi. Seeing that Lin Yi casually used a talisman to seriously injure Dong Jianqing, who was at the fifth stage of the spirit-driving realm, their faces were full of shock and fear. The talisman was a treasure that could only be found by chance. They didn't expect Lin Yi to be able to use it so casually. It made them envious. Senior Dong. Young Master Lin is my cousin's fiancé. Luo Linger's voice reached Dong Jianqing's ears from afar. Naturally, it also reached the ears of all the Shengwu College martial artists. Hearing that Lin Yi was Luo Bingyue's fiancé, they couldn't help but be shocked. The super genius with the emperor body, the goddess of the Yunshui kingdom, Luo Bingyue. Almost everyone knew about her, and this low-key unknown young man turned out to be Luo Bingyue's fiancé. How could they not be shocked? All the martial artists reacted and quickly chased after Lin Yi. They no longer dared to be with Dong Jianqing. Wasn't this obvious? Following Dong Jianqing meant offending Lin Yi. Although they didn't know what ability Lin Yi had, Luo Bingyue was not someone they could afford to offend. Luo Bingyue's fiancé? Damn it. Dong Jianqing got up and saw that all the Shengwu College martial artists had left, leaving him alone. Even if he was a fool, he knew that these Shengwu College martial artists were on Lin Yi's side. Thinking of how he had just taught Lin Yi a lesson and pretended in front of Lin Yi, he couldn't help but feel his face burning. The distance of less than 1,000 miles was covered by Lin Yi and the others in just 6 hours. Everyone came to the front of a tall mountain peak. The peak towered into the clouds. In front of the peak, there was a 100-meter-high stone tablet with the words Sky Capital Peak engraved on it. This is Sky Capital Peak. Let's go to the peak. Let's go too. So many martial artists are coming. I wonder what treasures there are on the peak. Arriving in front of Sky Capital Peak, the Paladin Academy's martial artist sighed, then unfolded his body and sprinted up the mountain peak. No one dared to split up, as they were worried that they would be killed by the martial artists of the other academies. The martial artists from the other 3 great academies were also traveling together. Without seeing any treasures, they didn't intend to fight. Their goal was the peak of Sky Capital Peak. At this very moment, countless martial artists from the 4 great academies had gathered at the top of Sky Capital Peak. Every martial artist was rubbing their fists, eager to go all out and snatch the treasures here. On the peak there was a huge altar. On the altar there were 99 seats in the shape of a trapezoid. On the first step there were 33 seats. On the second step there were 22 seats. On the third step there were 11 seats. On the fourth step there were 9 seats. On the fifth step there were 8 seats. On the sixth step there were 7 seats. On the seventh step there were 6 seats. On the eighth step there were only 2 seats. On the ninth step there was only 1 seat. The distance between each step was 10 meters. At this moment, only half of the 99 seats were occupied, and most of them were on the first 3 steps. There were only a few people on the 4th and 5th step. As for the seats above the 7th step, no one had sat on them yet. Countless martial artists on the peak looked at the seats on the altar with envy. However, it wasn't that easy to sit on them. It was as difficult as ascending to heaven. Chapter 31. In 7 days, they will be teleported into the treasure vault. The higher the seat, the better the treasure. It's so cool up there. 1 day of cultivation is equivalent to 10 days of cultivation outside. 1 day of cultivation at the top is equivalent to 1 month of cultivation. Really? How do you know? You just arrived, right? 2 months ago, the artifact spirit on the altar said so. How can one sit up there? It's said that it depends on talent. Countless people have tried, and only they can sit up there. As long as they don't get chased away by others, they won't encounter any pressure. At the top of Sky Capital Peak, there were endless discussions. Everyone looked at the people on the altar and wanted to sit up there, because as long as one sat on the altar, they would be teleported into the treasure vault to choose a treasure. As for what kind of treasure it was and how many there were, no one knew. Lin Ye's divine sense was powerful, and countless discussions reached his ears. He also heard the situation on the altar and couldn't help but be surprised. More than that, he was excited and curious. He wanted to know how talented he was and whether he could sit on a seat. The warriors on the top of the mountain didn't sit on the altar. The reason why they didn't leave was that when the altar was teleported, a treasure vault would be opened at the same time. It would be open for 3 days. Ling go and try, Lin Yi said to Luo Ling. He knew that Luo Ling had a 9th grade spiritual pulse talent. Everyone on the altar had a 9th grade spiritual pulse talent. If others had a chance to sit up there, maybe Luo Ling would have a chance too. Okay. Luo Ling nodded obediently. Step by step, she walked towards the altar. In front of her, there were already countless new warriors who had failed and left. Rumble rumble Luo Ling just got close to the altar and put 1 foot on it. The altar suddenly exploded with a strong roar, and the spirit chi in the air rushed over. An unparalleled pressure ruthlessly pressed down on Luo Ling. Luo Ling was almost crushed to the ground by that overbearing pressure. This altar did not test one's cultivation base or strength. The higher the talent, the further one could go. Luo Ling spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was extremely pale, but she didn't want to admit defeat because Lin Yi was looking at her from not far away. She didn't want to be looked down upon by Lin Yi. He took another step forward and walked forward. Every step was incomparably difficult, as if his entire body was being pressed down by a mountain. 10 meters later, he finally arrived at the first step. Luo Linger endured the terrifying pressure. Looking at the position of the first step, her beautiful eyes flashed with determination. She stepped towards the second step. She didn't want to stop at the first step. Seeing this, countless onlookers shook their heads in envy. Ling Er actually reached the first stage. I wonder where brother-in-law is. Among the crowd at the top of the mountain, Luo Xing'er saw Luo Linger on the altar, and couldn't help but feel happy. Then she thought of Lin Yi and wondered where Lin Yi was now. Her brows furrowed and then relaxed. She walked towards the direction where Luo Linger came from. Soon, an excited smile appeared on Luo Xing'er's face. This was because she saw a familiar figure in her line of sight. Seeing this figure, she hurriedly quickened her pace, afraid that this figure would disappear into the crowd. Brother-in-law. Lin Yi was watching Luo Linger on the altar. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded. The voice was crisp and sweet, like the sound of nature. Hearing this voice, Lin Ye's face lit up with joy. He looked in the direction of the voice and saw a girl in a black dress running towards him. Xing'er, you're here too. How was it? Did you get anything? Looking at Luo Xing'er, Lin Yi smiled. Seeing that Luo Xing'er was alive and well, his heart that was in his throat finally calmed down. Brother-in-law. I got a lot of heaven and earth treasures. Look, I'm now at the Xiantian 7th stage. Luo Xing'er held Lin Ye's hand and was incomparably happy. She stood beside Lin Yi like a little bird, wearing a black dress. At this moment, she looked even more beautiful and lovely. In front of Lin Yi, she talked about her harvest. Have you tried? Lin Yi let Luo Xing'er hold his hand and pointed to the altar. At this moment, Luo Linger had already sat down on the seat above the 4th stage. There were only 9 seats above the 4th stage and Luo Linger occupied one of them. Moreover, so far there were only 3 people above the 4th stage. One could imagine how difficult it was to reach the 4th stage. Without a certain level of talent, it was impossible to reach the 4th stage. I've already tried. Luo Xing'er shook her head and a trace of loneliness appeared on her face. She had already gone up and tried, but she was unable to ascend the altar at all, let alone sit at the top. This meant that Luo Xing'er's talent was not good enough. She and Luo Bingyue were twin sisters and looked exactly the same. However, Luo Bingyue had the emperor body of ice. Luo Xing'er only had the spiritual pulse physique. There was a huge difference between her and Luo Bingyue. It was as if all her talent had been taken away by Luo Bingyue when she was in her mother's womb. Can't you see that I don't have a martial spirit? You don't have a martial spirit, but you can still cultivate. Lin Yi patted Luo Xing'er's head and comforted her. Brother-in-law, go and try. Luo Xing'er looked at Lin Yi curiously. She had always been suspicious of Lin Ye's physique. It was too miraculous that he could cultivate without a martial spirit. Now, she could check out Lin Ye's talent. Only those with great talent could have the chance to sit on the altar. Try. Then I'll try. Lin Yi was stunned. He also wanted to try. He wanted to know if he could sit on the altar. Could he really cultivate without a martial spirit? With that, he handed a storage pouch to Luo Xing'er and walked toward the altar. Boom! Lin Yi came to the altar and stepped on it. As soon as he stepped on the altar, there was a roar in his mind. Then, an unparalleled pressure pressed down on him. This pressure was only aimed at him. No one else could feel it. The bloodline in his body kept on surging. Talent, bloodline, and also physique. Martial spirits could also be determined through bloodline. Everything was related to bloodline. The pressure on the altar had a mystical aura. This aura kept on tormenting his bloodline, making him feel uncomfortable. But he quickly got used to it. 1 step, 2 steps, 10 seconds, he reached the first level. With every step he took, the pressure on Lin Ye's body increased. 20 seconds later, Lin Ye reached the second level. 40 seconds later, Lin Ye reached the third level. But he had no intention of stopping. Instead, he walked toward the top of the altar step by step. As time passed, he had completely gotten used to the pressure on the altar. To be honest, the pressure here was not as domineering as the dragon might in the Rainbow Palace. With the Earth Dragon transformation and his divine telekinesis, he felt relaxed. He reached the fourth level. Luo Xing and Luo Ling were shocked when they saw Lin Yi reach the fourth level. There were thousands of martial artists from the 4 major academies on the summit of Sky Capital Peak. Those who could become martial artists from the 4 major academies were all Heaven's Pride level characters. However, it was too difficult to occupy a seat on the altar. Those who came here had tried many times, but they all failed. They knew that the pressure on the altar was terrifying and had a high requirement for talent. Seeing another person reach the 4th level, countless martial artists were shocked. What was even more unexpected was that this martial artist, who was only in the Xiantian realm, did not sit on the 4th level. Instead, he walked to an even higher level. 5th level, success. 6th level, success. 7th level, success. At the 5th level, there were only 4 people including Lin Yi. There was no one above the 5th level. Now Lin Yi had rapidly crossed the 5th step and entered the 6th step. He had even reached the 7th step. This scene shocked all the martial artists present, none of them daring to believe their own eyes. In their opinion, only geniuses with king physiques could reach the 6th or 7th level. However, those who entered the secret territory were all geniuses below the king physique. Geniuses with king physiques did not need to enter this new secret territory. Therefore, the best talent here was a 9th grade spiritual heritage. 7th level. That's unbelievable. Is he a genius with a king physique? Impossible. Geniuses with king physiques would not come here. He is a martial artist from Shengwu College, at the peak of Xiantian Realm Level 8. He is a newcomer this year. We know the 2 geniuses with king physiques from Shengwu College. It is not him. I did not expect that there would be such a genius in Shengwu College. This is really the 7th level. Look, he is not stopping at the 7th level. He is going up. Is he immune to the power of the altar? The peak of Sky Capital Peak was in an uproar. Everyone looked at Lin Yi, who was on the 7th step of the altar. The martial artists from Sky Sword Academy, Green Rock Academy, and Nan Feng Academy were jealous. Only the martial artists from Shengwu College were excited because Lin Yi was from Shengwu College. In other words, Lin Yi could reach the 7th level. He should be a genius with a king physique. In addition to Luo Bingyue and Dongfang Qing, Paladin Academy had recruited 3 geniuses with emperor physiques this year. This was the biggest harvest in 1,000 years. Could it be that Paladin Academy's peak era had arrived? Brother-in-law is the best. Luo Xing looked at Lin Yi, who was on the 7th step, and her beautiful face revealed an excited expression. It was as if she was the one who had reached the 7th step. She was even more excited than if she had reached the 7th step herself. Young Master Lin is really amazing, Luo Linger said happily when she saw Lin Yi on the 4th level. 8th level, success. At this moment, all the martial artists on Sky Capital Peak were in an uproar. All sorts of envy and jealousy, as well as all sorts of discussions, shook the entire Sky Capital Peak. The 8th level was an unattainable existence. Although many people were jealous of Lin Yi reaching the 8th level was good for them. The higher the level, the more treasures there would be. In other words, Lin Yi had increased the level and quantity of the treasures in the treasury. If Lin Yi had not reached the 8th level, the highest level he could reach would be the 5th level. Although the treasures and quantity of the 5th level were good, they could not be compared to the 8th level. There were only 2 spots on the 8th level. High and mighty, below 1 person and above thousands. Looking down at the countless martial artists below, he felt like he was looking down at the mountain. However, Lin Yi didn't stop. Instead, he walked towards the highest step with great difficulty. The 9th step, that was the highest step, the true number 1 existence. Chapter 32. The 8th step. He has successfully reached the 8th step. His name is Lin Yi. I remember. Yes, his name is Lin Yi. He is Luo Bingyue's fiancé. Didn't they say that he doesn't have a martial soul? How can he be so heaven-defying? I believe that even if a genius with a peerless emperor body came, he might not be able to reach the 8th step, let alone the 9th step. Can he reach the 9th step? If he reaches the 9th step, all the treasures and treasures of Sky Capital Peak will appear. Countless people were discussing as they watched Lin Yi walk towards the 9th step. At this moment, more people wanted Lin Yi to reach the 9th step. This was because if Lin Yi reached the 9th step, all the treasures of Sky Capital Peak would appear. At that time, all kinds of heaven-defying treasures and treasures of Sky Capital Peak would appear. More treasures would appear. Jealousy. Of course, there was jealousy. However, more people chose to be envious than jealous. Why? That was because all of the genius martial artists present understood a single fact. Their talent simply couldn't compare with Lin Yi's. From the moment that Lin Yi stepped onto the altar, he had already left the thousands of martial artists far behind. Now, his talent was definitely number 1 here. Anyway, he was already number 1. They were not qualified to be jealous. Brother-in-law, you must succeed. Luo Xing'er clenched her fists and said nervously. Senior brother Lin, you must succeed. Junior brother Lin, you can do it. Junior brother Lin, you must be number 1. Senior brother Lin, you must attain the supreme Tao. Many of the martial artists of Xingu College had already heard of Lin Yi's name. Many of them secretly cheered for Lin Yi, hoping that Lin Yi could reach the 9th step and sit on the supreme seat. There was only 1 seat on the 9th step. That seat was a symbol of supremacy, and no one could surpass it. Moreover, the higher Lin Yi's achievements were, the more heaven-defying Lin Yi's talent was. Maybe Lin Yi's talent had already surpassed Luo Bingyue and Dongfang Qing. Mr. said that I don't have a martial spirit. My bloodline is extremely pure. Even without a martial soul, I will still stand at the peak. I, who have no talent, still want to prove my Tao and become the strongest. Lin Yi felt like he was about to be crushed into pieces. Not to mention taking a step forward, even lifting his feet was extremely difficult. The pressure in the air was like 100,000 mountains pressing down on his back. The blood in his body was boiling, as if it was about to combust. The 3,000 heavenly Daos circulated as his spiritual will supported his will. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 step. Every step forward would take a very long time. With every step he took, the martial artists at the peak of Celestial Capital Peak would tremble. It was as if the person who was about to reach the 9th step was not Lin Yi, but them. Countless people held their breaths, not daring to let out a breath. Their eyes were fixed on Lin Yi's thin back. But in the eyes of countless people, that thin back seemed to be able to carry 100,000 mountains. Boom! Boom! After an unknown amount of time, Lin Yi finally came close to the 9th step. As long as he took the first few steps, he would be able to sit on the one and only seat on the 9th step. However, at this time, just as Lin Yi's foot landed, there was a sudden clap of thunder in the sky. Endless spiritual qi surged, and the weather changed. All the martial artists present were shocked. They could all see that Lin Yi was only 9 steps away from the 9th step. The first step attracted the thunder and endless spiritual qi, causing the weather to change. At the second step, the spiritual chi within 10,000 miles of the new secret dimension began to stir. It kept on gathering the spiritual chi from the surroundings, causing the spiritual chi in celestial capital peak to be 10 times richer than other places. At the third step, the horrifying spiritual chi had reached 20 times. At the fourth step, with celestial capital peak as the center, the spiritual chi had reached 30 times richer. At the fifth step, within 10,000 miles of celestial capital peak, the spiritual chi had reached 50 times richer. The spiritual chi was almost tangible, like a hazy fog. At this time, an electric arc descended from the void. The electric arc fell on Lin Yi, and Lin Yi spat out a mouthful of blood. However, Lin Ye's aura suddenly changed. He was now at the peak of Xiantian Realm Level 8. With the help of this electric arc, his cultivation had reached Level 9. This change shocked all the martial artists. Then, they were extremely envious. At the sixth step, an electric arc fell from the void. At this moment, the electric arc was purple gold. It fell on Lin Ye's body, and Lin Yi once again spat out a mouthful of blood. He almost fell from the altar. In the end, Lin Yi managed to stabilize himself and did not fall from the altar. At this moment, Lin Ye's cultivation, under the envious and shocked eyes of thousands of martial artists, broke through the Xiantian realm and stepped into the spirit-driving realm, becoming a powerhouse at the first layer of the spirit-driving realm. At the seventh step, a three-colored electric arc descended from the void. The electric arc enveloped Lin Yi, and Lin Ye's clothes were torn into pieces, turning him into a beggar. However, they all wanted to have his experience, because at this moment, Lin Ye's cultivation had reached the second layer of the spirit-driving realm. At the eighth step, Lin Ye's cultivation, without the slightest suspense, reached the third layer of the spirit-driving realm. Countless martial artists had already gone crazy. Of course, they had to go crazy. It would be strange if they didn't go crazy. Every time he took a step, he would be struck by lightning. Every time he was struck by lightning, he would advance by a realm. At the ninth step, Lin Yi was very, very close. He was only one step away. As long as Lin Yi took a step, he would be able to sit on the supreme position of the ninth step. However, Lin Yi did not move. He looked at the ninth step with a dignified expression. The ninth step gave him a feeling. That feeling was that maybe if he sat on it, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Maybe if he sat on it, he would be reborn. This feeling was very strange, and it made him hesitate. My dream of becoming a powerhouse, the heart of a sovereign. The path of Theta Scarabii is like sailing against the current. Endless unknowns are waiting for me in front. This is just one of them. Even if I retreat now, there are still unknowns waiting for me in front. If I retreat, there will be cracks in my state of mind. Lin Yi endured the destructive pressure. His will was greatly challenged. But soon, he reacted. In this world, the only thing he could do was to press forward. Thinking of this, he took a step forward. Boom! Between heaven and earth, the space shook. Unparalleled thunder penetrated 3,000 miles. The seven-colored arc bombarded Lin Ye's body fiercely. The clothes on his body were completely torn at this moment. It could be said that his clothes could not cover his body. But at this moment, he could not care about other things. His cultivation had reached the fourth level of the spirit maneuvering realm. He sat down on the seat of the ninth step. Without the slightest hesitation, he took out a set of clothes from the 9-layer space and put it on. He was speechless. It was simply maddening. He could not wait to find a hole to drill into. Thousands of martial artists, each proud son and daughter of heaven, all saw his appearance. It made his face burn. Countless proud sons and daughters of heaven quickly covered their eyes with their hand. But the 5 fingers covering their eyes were slightly open. The ninth step, supreme. Tiandu Treasure Land, open. The moment Lin Yi sat on the ninth step, a loud voice resounded through heaven and earth. It passed into the ears of all the martial artists. This voice was like the heavenly Tao. They did not know where it came from. As the voice fell, a shocking spiritual energy rushed out from the ground. In the air, a shocking spiritual energy fell down. Every strand of spiritual chi was a treasure of heaven and earth, a precious elixir, a mystical medicinal herb, or a powerful cultivation method or martial skill. At this moment, thousands of martial artists at the top of Tiandu Peak went crazy. 9th level spiritual weapon. 4th level elixir. It's a 4th level elixir. Millennium blood fruit, heaven level cultivation technique. It's actually a heaven level cultivation technique. More than 9th level spiritual weapon. Oh my god, that's definitely a sacred weapon, a sacred weapon. 5th level elixir, oh my god! Bursts of exclamations boiled this side of the world. Countless martial artists rushed towards the treasures that appeared in this side of the world. At this moment, the real outbreak of fighting broke out. These treasures could only be found by chance. Or, even if you have money, you can't buy them. When the geniuses on the altar saw the appearance of countless treasures, they couldn't help but leave to fight for the treasures. In just a short period of time, there were originally more than 40 people on the altar, but now there were only 6 people left. Someone discovered that at this moment, the people outside the altar could no longer enter the altar. Those geniuses who left the altar wanted to enter again, but they were also blocked outside. On the 4th step of the altar, Luo Linger looked at Lin Yi, who was at the top of the altar, with a questioning look in her eyes. This was because countless treasures had appeared on Tiandu Peak, and these treasures could only be found by chance. If one didn't go and fight for them, they would all be taken away by others. Lin Yi didn't speak. He just shook his head, indicating that Luo Linger shouldn't go out. At the same time, he looked at Luo Xinger outside the altar, indicating that Luo Xinger shouldn't go and fight for the treasures. In fact, he didn't need to say anything. Luo Xinger didn't dare to fight for the treasures. With her cultivation, she would be courting death if she went. When Lin Yi gave her the storage bag, she understood that she shouldn't participate in the fight. In the storage bag that Lin Yi gave her, it was full of 4th level talismans, most of which were defensive talismans. Time passed by minute. The treasures continued to appear, and the fight became more and more tragic. In front of powerful and magical treasures, hundreds of people would fight for them. Even a martial artist in the 7th or 8th level of the spirit realm would be besieged and killed in an instant. After half a day, a total of 4 sacred tools appeared. There were 3 heaven-level cultivation techniques and 5 heaven-level martial skills. There were countless other treasures, and each of them was a super-existence in the Yunshui kingdom. Rumble on Tiandu Peak, treasures continued to appear. At this time, thunder continued to sound in the void. No one noticed that the 6 people on the altar had disappeared. They disappeared strangely, as if they had evaporated into thin air. Supreme, congratulations! Lin Yi appeared in a cloud-like palace. As soon as he appeared, he heard a faint voice. Chapter 33. With a quick glance, he had a clear view of his surroundings. He was in a palace made of clouds that was 100 meters in size. There were dozens of light shields floating in the palace. Inside the light shields, there was a powerful aura. Needless to say, there were powerful and mysterious treasures inside the light shields. Other than that, Lin Yi did not see the owner of the voice. Don't bother looking. I'm just a remnant consciousness that will dissipate along with Sky Capital Peak. There are a total of 33 treasures here. The voice seemed to have seen through Lin Ye's every move and said. The voice was always the same, without the slightest emotion. How can I obtain them? Lin Ye's thoughts had been seen through, but he didn't feel embarrassed at all. After all, this place was someone else's territory. In other words, he was the ruler here. His every move was under someone else's control. When he heard that there were 33 treasures, his heartbeat quickened. Because he had reached the 9th step and stood at the peak, the place he came to was naturally the place with the best treasures. Previously, a sacred weapon had appeared outside, so the treasures here should not be inferior to those outside. 33 treasures. Different quality and different effects. You can't see the treasures here, so you can only rely on your luck. You can choose 17 of them, and the remaining 16 will appear outside when you obtain them. After they appear, you will know what the 16 treasures are, the voice said calmly. After saying that, it seemed to be waiting for Lin Ye's answer or choice. Lin Ye could only choose 17 of the 33 treasures, which was half. Moreover, Lin Ye did not know what treasures he would choose. After he made his choice, the remaining treasures would appear before the other martial artists of Sky Capital Peak. The remaining treasures. Can this junior participate in it? Lin Ye did not choose any treasures. In fact, he did not plan to choose at all because the treasures were shrouded in light shields and he did not know what was inside. He could only rely on his luck. If he was lucky, he would obtain a good treasure. If he was unlucky, he would obtain a bad treasure. What he cared about was whether he could participate in the fight for the treasures. If he could, with his strength, it should not be a problem to snatch one treasure. If he found something he needed, he could give it a try. Sure. The voice answered Lin Ye's question without hesitation. I choose this half. Lin Ye did a rough count and chose 17 items, which were 17 light shields. The light shields were not opened, so he did not know what treasures were inside. In his opinion, if he was unlucky, he might miss out on all the best treasures. Since that was the case, he might as well just choose one piece. The 17 pieces next to each other couldn't all be the worst, right? Walla walla. As Lin Ye's voice fell, the 17 light shields quickly disappeared. One item after another appeared in Lin Ye's line of sight. He didn't even have the time to look at the 17 treasures he had obtained. All of them were stored in the ninefold space. He would take his time to look at them in the future. Right now, he wanted to snatch the other 16 treasures as quickly as possible. Boom! Boom! The moment he took away the 17 treasures, the remaining 16 light barriers disappeared at the same time. At the same time, Lin Ye's figure appeared at the top of the altar. The 16 treasures appeared at the same time, all displayed in front of countless warriors. The world trembled completely at this moment, as if it was about to be destroyed. The appearance of the most powerful treasures, and 16 of them at once, immediately made the warriors even crazier. Countless warriors rushed toward the 16 treasures. On the altar, Lin Ye appeared. Luo Ling and the other 4 cultivators also appeared. Their faces were filled with excitement. Needless to say, they had obtained an incredible treasure. They didn't have to compete with others to obtain a treasure. Naturally, they were excited. When they appeared, a few treasures also appeared with them. What a terrifying life aura! This is it. Lin Ye saw the nearest treasure. It had a magical life aura, and this life aura had the wood attribute. Needless to say, this was the most magical wood attribute, the ultimate wood attribute. Seeing such a treasure, he happened to see Luo Xing not far away. Luo Xing was a wood attribute, but she had a spiritual vein. If Luo Xing obtained this treasure, it might be of great help to her cultivation. Thinking of this, his figure flashed and quickly left the altar, heading toward the treasure. Rumble! Rumble! In his hand, talismans appeared one after another. The talismans floated out and turned into terrifying attacks. In an instant, the attacks injured and killed countless warriors. These warriors who were fighting for the treasures were extremely horrified. Their figures flashed and quickly retreated. Although the treasures were good, their lives were more important. Taking advantage of the countless warriors retreating, Lin Ye's figure flashed and appeared in front of the life aura. The life aura was a crystal the size of an egg. The green light symbolized the revival of all things. Lin Ye did not hesitate and reached out to grab the green crystal. The moment he grabbed the green crystal, he felt the threat of death. A wave of attacks came toward him. Absolute defense. Earth Dragon Transformation. Lin Yi roared and used the first transformation of the Divine Dragon 9 transformations. At the same time, he activated his absolute defense, hoping that his powerful physique and absolute defense could block the attacks of countless warriors. As long as he dodged this attack, he would be able to retreat. Pucci. Countless warriors attacked with all their strength, crushing Lin Ye's absolute defense. Immediately, the Taiji diagram trembled and shattered. The attacks landed on Lin Ye's body. Lin Yi spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying 100 meters. Absolute defense, that was the absolute defense of the same level. He had the spirit movement mirror. Any expert within the spirit movement mirror could not shake his absolute defense. However, his absolute defense could not block the full-strength attacks of countless spirit movement mirrors. Fortunately, he had offset 50% of the attack. In the end, the powerful physique and defense of the Earth Dragon transformation saved him from death. Borrowing the force of the flying, he quickly retreated and ran into the distance. Don't let them surround Junior Brother Lin. Stop them and let Junior Brother Lin leave. Kill. The warriors of Shungu College were horrified when they saw countless people attacking Lin Yi. They thought that Lin Yi was going to vanish. However, when they saw that Lin Yi was still alive, they were shocked. At this moment, they all knew that Lin Yi was powerful and heaven-defying. Knowing that Lin Yi had obtained a super treasure, the others would definitely not let Lin Yi go. Even the warriors of Shungu College participated in the fight for the treasure with Lin Yi. Noticing this situation, some of the warriors of Shungu College reacted and shouted loudly. The warriors of Shungu College received the warning and immediately burst out with powerful attacks to help Lin Yi escape. They blocked the experts of the other 3 colleges who were chasing after Lin Yi and reduced the pressure on Lin Yi. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Yi did not dare to stay any longer. He used his body movement to the extreme and ran down the sky capital peak. He did not dare to stay any longer. Staying here was simply courting death. Because they all knew that Lin Yi also had a treasure. It was intolerable to not kill and rob in the secret territory. Naturally, they would not let Lin Yi go. Luo Ling and Luo Xing also quickly ran down the sky capital peak. Rumble, rumble, as Lin Yi ran, the talisman patterns floated out. At this moment, he threw out the talisman like it was a piece of scrap paper. The talisman was precious, but his life was more important. Compared to the treasure he had obtained this time, a few talismans were nothing. The terrifying attacks of the talismans killed countless experts who were chasing after Lin Yi. In a moment, Lin Yi used up all the 4th-rank talismans on him. He also left the sky capital peak and was running into the distance. Luo Ling and Luo Xing followed closely behind Lin Yi. In their hands, talismans constantly floated out. The terrifying attacks and defenses caused countless warriors to go berserk. The closer they got, the fewer people who were chasing after Lin Yi. Gradually, they all knew that the situation was hopeless. It was basically impossible to get the treasure from Lin Yi. Moreover, if they were remembered by Lin Yi, it would be troublesome. After 15 minutes, there were no more warriors behind Lin Yi. To countless warriors, they would rather give up on Lin Yi and fight with other experts. The other experts might be stronger than Lin Yi, but they were definitely not as difficult to deal with as Lin Yi. It was only because Lin Yi had too many talisman patterns on him that he threw them out as if they were free. Xing take it. Refine it. Lin Yi was incomparably weak and his face was pale. He handed the green crystal to Luo Xing and said, "Brother-in-law." Luo Xing looked at the green crystal in Lin Ye's hand and couldn't help but shed sparkling tears. She naturally knew that this green crystal was of the wood attribute. It was even more magical than the wood attribute. She also knew that Lin Yi didn't care about his own safety to snatch this green crystal for her. If it wasn't for her, with Lin Ye's cultivation and strength, he could have chosen other treasures. It could even be said that Lin Yi didn't need to snatch the treasure at all. Hurry up and refine it, lest the effect wears off, Lin Yi said seriously. After this green crystal left the light shield and appeared in the world, its power would slowly wear off if it stayed outside for too long. After all, this green crystal couldn't be compared to other spiritual treasures. Thank you, brother-in-law. Luo Xing took the green crystal and revealed a sweet smile on her beautiful tear-stained face. It made one's heart ache for her. Leave this place, as far as possible. Lin Ye's body shook and he almost fell. He spat out another mouthful of blood, his face pale and powerless. If it wasn't for the absolute defense and Earth Dragon transformation, not to mention the spirit-driving realm, even a Heaven Dipper realm expert who had surpassed the spirit-driving realm would have been killed. Now that he survived, he also suffered heavy injuries. He had to find a safe place to recuperate and recover from his injuries. However, this place was too close to Sky Capital Peak, and there were too many experts. If other experts saw him, they would definitely kill him to snatch the treasure. Ling you lead the way and bring up the rear. I'll carry brother-in-law, it's faster this way. Luo Xing supported Lin Yi, her face full of worry. After thinking for a moment, he opened his mouth and said to Luo Ling She could see that with Lin Ye's current situation, it was simply a dream to run quickly. The only way was to carry Lin Yi and leave this place as quickly as possible. Okay, I'll replace you when the time comes. Luo Ling nodded. Both of them were 16-years-old girls, not even 17 years old. Although they were strong and could run for a short period of time, they definitely wouldn't be able to hold on for a long time, so the two of them had to replace each other. Luo Xing bent down, carried Lin Yi on her back and ran quickly. Chapter 34. The news of Sky Capital Peak had spread to almost all the martial artists in the mystic realm. When they found out that countless heaven-defying treasures had appeared in the Sky Capital Peak, they were shocked beyond words. However, most of them were envious. On Sky Capital Peak, the day when the treasures appeared was the most powerful. There were saint artifacts and heaven-class cultivation technique. On the second day there were also saint artifacts and heaven-class cultivation techniques, but there were not as many as the first day. On the third day a saint artifact appeared. Other than that, the rest were ordinary treasures. After 3 days, Sky Capital Peak disappeared. It disappeared into thin air, leaving behind a 100-meter-tall stone tablet with the words Sky Capital Peak engraved on it. According to statistics, Sky Capital Peak had a total of more than 300 level 9 spirit artifacts and 11 saint artifacts. A total of 16 heaven-class cultivation techniques and heaven-class martial skills had appeared. There were also some level 5 spirit dawn and millennium spirit herbs. Other treasures and heaven and earth treasures were innumerable. Out of the thousands of martial artists, half of them had died. Those who survived had basically gained a lot. In the mystic realm, the most popular words were saint artifacts, heaven-class cultivation techniques, level 5 spirit dawn, and Lin Yi. This time, Lin Ye's name was known by almost everyone. He was a level 9 character. Because of him, all the treasures of Sky Capital Peak had appeared, allowing the martial artists of the 4 academies to obtain saint artifacts and heaven-class cultivation techniques. Some people said that Lin Yi was definitely a genius with a king physique, or even a peerless king physique. Some people said that Lin Yi had obtained several treasures that were on the same level as saint artifact. This was because the few people left on the altar all had a saint weapon in their hand. In that case, the supreme 9th step would definitely obtain more and better treasures. The main character of countless people's discussions was currently cultivating and healing. 3,000 miles away from Sky Capital Peak, Lin Yi was sitting cross-legged in a cave in a mountain range, swallowing a restoration pill to heal. This was the first time he had been injured, and it was so serious. In other words, this time he had almost lost his life. The cave was dozens of meters wide. Inside the cave, Luo Xing was refining the green crystal while Luo Ling was cultivating on the side. At the same time, they were paying attention to the movements outside to prevent demon beasts and human warriors from discovering this place. However, the entrance to the cave was very small and hidden. It was impossible for anyone to discover it. Time passed day by day. It took half a month for Lin Ye's injuries to stabilize. However, it would take at least 2 to 3 months to fully recover. However, it wouldn't affect his cultivation now. As long as he didn't fight, it wouldn't affect his injuries. After refining a restore pill, his injuries recovered a little. Opening his eyes, Lin Yi stared blankly at Luo Xing and Luo Ling who were refining the green crystals. If he was alone, he could enter the ninefold space to cultivate, which would save him a lot of time. However, it was obviously impossible now. This cave was so small. If he entered the ninefold space, he would have to disappear from their sight. In this way, he would expose the secret of the space treasure he had on him. Of course, it wasn't that he didn't trust Luo Xing and Luo Ling. It was better to be safe than sorry. If other people found out, it would cause unnecessary trouble. Now, he could only give up on entering the ninefold space and cultivate outside to heal his injuries. Boom! Just as Lin Yi was deep in thought, a terrifying life aura erupted from the cave. Lin Yi and Luo Ling looked at Luo Xing at the same time. They saw that Luo Xing was currently surrounded by a green color. An unparalleled life aura emanated from Luo Xing's body. Her entire person was beautiful, otherworldly, and extremely agile. At this moment, Luo Xing was like a spirit of life. A body of life. Lin Yi looked at Luo Xing and couldn't help but exclaim. He had read about the body of life in ancient books. In ancient books, the body of life could be said to be a legendary existence. It symbolized life, incarnated life, and possessed unparalleled life force. The body of life wasn't an emperor body, but a sacred body. It was even more heaven-defying. Body of life? Luo Ling didn't know about the body of life. She couldn't help but look at Lin Yi curiously. The body of life has powerful life force. It even has the ability to heal itself. More importantly, it can help others heal their injuries. Legend has it that when the body of life is cultivated to a certain level, it can bring people back to life. Don't let others know about Xing body of life to avoid trouble. Lin Yi spoke slowly. In the end, he reminded Luo Ling that only the three of them knew that Luo Xing had a body of life. This matter couldn't be known to others. Even if he had snatched the green crystal, no one would have dared to believe that the green crystal, which had powerful life force, could create a sacred body. A sacred body had never appeared in the history of the Yunshui kingdom. Understood. Luo Ling was extremely envious. Although her talent wasn't an emperor body, she was still a genius with a 9th-grade spiritual pulse. She was also one of the top geniuses. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to reach the 4th step of the altar. Now, she didn't expect that Lin Yi would help Luo Xing become a body of life. However, she calmed down quickly. Everyone's luck and opportunities were different. This was something that couldn't be envied. Perhaps in the future, she would also have the opportunity to become an emperor body or even more heaven-defying. Moreover, this time, she had been transported to the treasury and obtained 3 good treasures that were enough for her to use for the rest of her life. While the two of them were talking, Luo Xing's life force became stronger and stronger. A green grassland appeared around her with flowers and plants. In the beginning, Luo Xing was still unable to control her sacred body and her life force leaked out. Gradually, she began to control her sacred body and retracted her life force. After 2 hours, Luo Xing finished cultivating and walked toward Lin Yi. At this moment she was like an otherworldly beauty. She was already beautiful, but now she was even more otherworldly. She was even more beautiful than Luo Bingyue. She was the darling of heaven and earth, the embodiment of life. Each and every one of his movements was filled with boundless vitality and vitality. "Brother-in-law, I did it." Luo Xing was as excited as a child. She held Lin Yi's hand and stood beside Lin Yi. She looked up at Lin Yi. She knew that her brother-in-law had fought so hard for her. Work hard. In the future, you will definitely stand at the peak of martial arts. Remember, don't use your talent so easily. Lin Yi reached out and stroked Luo Xing's hair with a smile. When he first snatched the green crystal, he only knew that its life force was strong and that it was a good treasure. However, he didn't expect that the green crystal would turn Luo Xing into a sacred body. Xing will not let you down. Brother-in-law, how are your injuries? Luo Xing clenched her fists and made a gesture of encouragement. She nodded seriously. Thinking of Lin Yi's injuries, she couldn't help but worry. My injuries have stabilized. It won't affect my cultivation. I will fully recover after 2 months of recuperation. Lin Yi smiled. At this time, he was in high spirits and didn't look injured at all. Now that his injuries were stable, as long as he didn't fight, it wouldn't affect his cultivation. He could take advantage of this time to cultivate the 3,000 heavenly Tao and comprehend the heavenly phoenix divine seal. Fortune lurks in misfortune, and misfortune is a blessing in disguise. Although he was injured, it was not necessarily a bad thing. Brother-in-law, are we still going out to train? Luo Xing was relieved to hear Lin Yi's words. As long as it didn't affect her cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem. If it affected her cultivation because of snatching the green crystal and left behind sequelae, she would feel guilty for the rest of her life. We will leave the secret realm in 2 months. We have gained a lot during this time. This place is not far from Sky Capital Peak. The spiritual chi here is 30 times richer than other places. Let's take advantage of this spiritual chi and cultivate here for a while to improve our cultivation. You guys cultivate here first. I will go out to deal with some things. Lin Yi replied. He had already gained a lot. Even if he went out to adventure and found some treasures, they couldn't be compared to what he had gained now. Moreover, he was injured and couldn't act rashly. More importantly, he needed to go out to absorb spiritual chi. After the second seal of the ninefold space was broken, it could devour and absorb spiritual chi. The absorbed spiritual chi made the ninefold space rich in spiritual chi, and cultivation inside would be faster. The spiritual chi of Sky Capital Peak was 30 to 40 times richer than other places. It was definitely a rare thing. If he missed the spiritual chi here, it would be extremely difficult to find such rich spiritual chi again. Well, be careful, brother-in-law. We will wait for you here. Luo Xing nodded obediently. Luo Ling also nodded. They wanted to follow Lin Yi, but Lin Yi obviously went out to deal with some things and it wasn't convenient for him to bring them along. Naturally, they wouldn't say it out loud. Lin Yi didn't stay and left the cave. He executed cool breeze shadow movement technique and quickly fled into the distance. Lin Yi didn't stop until he was hundreds of miles away. The ninefold space opened and madly devoured the surrounding spiritual chi. The spiritual chi quickly rushed toward the ninefold space. The ninefold space was like a bottomless black hole, devouring everything. In one day, Lin Yi went to 7 or 8 places. In each place, the spiritual chi was extremely thin and the space trembled, attracting the attention of many martial artists. However, they didn't find Lin Yi and didn't know what was going on. In the end, it was concluded that the spiritual chi of Sky Capital Peak was disappearing automatically, just like the spiritual chi of Sky Capital Peak had skyrocketed in the beginning. One day later, Lin Yi returned to the cave. He began to cultivate with Luo Ling and Luo Xing. More importantly, he wanted to check the treasures he had obtained in the secret realm this time. He was looking forward to the 17 treasures the most. He didn't know what they were. He didn't check the 17 treasures in the ninefold space because he was recuperating. Now, he could check them properly. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.